and I want to thank Professor Tony Falola for giving us this opportunity. Sir, from what you have just said, the response given to the question posed to you by Professor Falola, it is obvious that your background as a broadcaster with the Lagos State Broadcasting Corporation, Radio Lagos, Federal Radio Corporation, and the Nigerian Television Authority influence your interest in publishing Alaroye. But I would like to know whether your stint with the theater group, Aisho Pepe, and Adebayo Salami group also has an influence on you. I'd like to know, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Those are actually factors that contributed immensely to the publication of Alaroye as a newspaper, because all those experiences were put together to ensure that we have a very good and standard newspaper. Yes, my experience with the broadcast industry, it actually was an accident. I was not planning to be a broadcaster. I didn't even know I could be a broadcaster. But what I knew from the outset was that I was going to be a good writer, Yoruba writer, because my own father had sort of set me on that. Because while I was very, very young, primary 3, my father will come to Lagos from Abeokuta, and he will buy D.O. Fagunwa books. And people around the compound, they will come to our compound to sit down with him. And he will bring the book out and call me, "Oh yeah, come and read for all of us." So I enjoyed reading the D.O. Fagunwa for them, especially when the area of Bologba, Jenny, Yami, Ibigenge, Awon, Luman Fijeon, and the people there will be laughing and saying, say yeah, you know, so based on that, I had that opportunity to know a good writing when I see one. So, and I started thinking that one day I will be writing, especially in Yoruba language. So that was my plan, actually. And when I was going to school, I also had such opportunity of writing Yoruba and little poems. But all that I forgot. So until I got to Lagos. So when I got to Lagos, I discovered as well that I was an Akewi, so that I could do it very well. And people around said, people could know this as you, this young boy, or if you know all this, why wouldn't you be doing it in a commercial form? So somebody said I should go and meet Almila Dele Abiodun. Dele Abiodun was one of the 3 leading juju musicians then. When you take King Sunny Ade, you take Ebenezer Obey, Dele Abiodun will follow. So and I went to Dele Abiodun and because I said, and he looked at me and said, I said, yes. And I said, and I said, and he said, and from there, he said I should be following them to wherever they had plays. So I became the side attraction for that group. And that was, I was 17 years. So whenever we got to a party, then after the musician had played, They will just, oh, it is show time, the time for such attraction. We are introducing a young Akewi to you, Alao Adedayo. And I will go there saying, mo gbére tí mo wí dé, mo fẹ́ pàtírà ewì sétí yín, mo gbé orin ńlá dé, gbogbo ẹni tó bá fẹ́ jẹun ewì kó má ṣàfara. Orin ńlá ńlá, orin bíi bọ́ọ̀lù gi, àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ tí mú gbajúmọ̀ kùn. Agbe kó máa gbóhùn mi ròkun, àlùkò kó máa gbóhùn mi rọ̀ṣà. Onídẹ̀rẹ́ kó máa gbóhùn mi rèwó lé, bọ́mọ owú bá bọ́ọ̀lù rin, ohun òkè ní tinú ẹ̀ wá. Ọ̀bàrà ni kò sí. Ifá kó máma kó mi níyè tèmi lọ, bá kùkọ́ bá gbọ̀n yẹ́ pìpì, gbogbo ti níran sọ. And from there, other poems will follow, and people will now come and give some money for the Akewi. So that was what we were doing. Actually, I was living on that. From there, I got to know a lot of celebrities, artists. They will always come to our shows and they will see me, and I became so popular among musicians. King Sunny Ade, Ebenezer Obey, Expensive Olubi, Emperor Pictures, and Lao Mowura, Babaruno Ishola. And I was very, very young in all this. So one day, we were just at a play. Then Alibaba Salami came. Before that, Baba Miro Ojola Dipogu had died 1978. And when there was an all-night artist night to pay tribute, so Jide Kosoko
while his internet is down, I'm fixing it.
Okay, sir.
Professor Adedayo, congratulations on the hosting of the 50th anniversary of the Yoruba Association. How did the conference go? Is your internet also down? Hello? You can hear me?
No, sir.
You didn't hear me?
My internet is on.
Did you hear my question?
But no, I cannot. No, sir, I didn't hear your question.
I said you just completed the hosting of the 50th anniversary of the Yoruba Studies Association.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How did it go, and what is the outcome of that?
It was a glorious meeting. Aláàfin Ọ̀fọ̀yọ́ Ọba Ikú Bàbá Yèyé Adéyẹmí III was in attendance. The Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò Ìbà Gani Abiodun Ìgè-Adam was also in attendance. And I would like to say that one of the things that came out of the meeting is the fact that if the Yoruba people, Yoruba as a people, we want to move forward, and all the agitation for Yoruba nation that we are clamoring for, we come to reality. One of the things that we need to know is, one, we must go back to the basics. Go back to how our forefathers, how they fought their fight in the olden days, and now apply such now. And so many instances were given. How Yoruba fought without leaving a finger, how they fought without bows, how they fought without arrow, how they fought with the power of mystical powers, so to say. So we need to go back and trace our path and re-strategize as a people, if indeed we want to achieve our aim. And Professor Tayo Adeshino was the keynote speaker. He mentioned something, that we need to understand our environment. we need to understand our neighbors. With that, we will know what to do, the strategies to really deploy to fight at this particular time that we have as a people. And another basic thing that was discussed extensively is the fact that we must make sure that we revitalize all our socio-ethical values. More importantly, we must take interest in knowing about our culture. And I want to believe that if we can go back to the basics, if our youth can really go back to how we are doing it, even the leaders too, we believe we are going to achieve the Yoruba nation we are agitating for. And one other thing that was discussed is the fact that parents must learn how our fathers in the olden days, how they taught their children the Yoruba language, the Yoruba proverbs, and all these things. Daddy, Mr. Alao Adedayo, he has mentioned to us now while discussing how his father introduced him to Fagunwa's novels. And we were encouraged as parents to go back and introduce our children to all the literary text, because if you really want to understand a people's culture, you must know about their literature. Through their literature, you will be let into their culture. So our parents in that gathering were advised to go back home, to start to speak Yoruba language, and literary books, text, play, novels, and poetry that we expose our younger generation to learning of Yoruba culture. So those are some of the things that we discussed. But by and large, the conference was well attended and it was glorious. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. For those of you who may not be aware, there is going to be a huge Yoruba carnival in February at Abeokuta. Indeed, as part of that initiative, an auditorium that can seat 7,000 people is ongoing, and a committee has been set up. I have been tasked and have accepted to lead a delegation from the diaspora. So if this takes off in February, I'll be there with the delegation from here. The hope is that it will be done annually. It's a lot of work, but we'll do it. Let me recognize the preference of those before us who laid the foundation of the discipline. Professor Ayobamboshe is here. The video is not there. We thank you for your participation. If you show your video, we will give you the opportunity to say words of encouragement to your active successors here that you have produced. Thanks for coming. And Princess Akinjobi of the University of Ibadan, she will be one of the people to interview the Alaafin for you on Sunday at same time. Thank you all. Please continue with your question, ma.
I'd like to ask that establishing a journalism firm in an indigenous language in a post-colonial environment is like staging a powerful protest that does not enjoy enough patronage by the people. So what inspired you to publish Yoruba newspaper in Yoruba language? You know, is publishing in Yoruba language profitable?
Yeah.
You know, another time you said, right from youth, your parents introduced you to the language. And you mentioned, while discussing with us in a moment, just in a moment now, that in journalism, there's no distinction between publishing in Yoruba language or English language. But the issue is in this post-colonial Yoruba society, does it really worth it? Is it profitable? Sir, I know that you were at the business school at one point in time or the other. And at business school, all they will be teaching is how to do business, invest, then get profit. Now you are into Yoruba publishing. Is it profitable? Does it really worth it?
Thank you very much. Simple answer before I go into details.
All right.
Publishing in the Yoruba language, if you are looking for the monetary aspect of it, for sure, that will be a wrong place to go.
Okay.
It is not a profitable in terms of the energy, the resources you put into it. And when you are looking for the pecuniary gains, that how much have we? I want to say something. My going to Lagos Business School, my going to do masters in public administration, my going to do master in business administration. I was doing all this because there was something I was running away from. I did not, and I still do not like people looking down on me or on that newspaper and to say, Shebi we Yoruba, what do you expect? So we ensure that we put everything that will make a standard newspaper. We have a good office, and we have qualified personnel that are working with us. I remember very well in 1999 when we were employing our first general manager and a chartered accountant who had experience. Some people were asking, what will you be doing with this type of person? You are publishing a Yoruba newspaper. And I said, yes, I needed to do that because that is exactly what I wanted to. That is the part of the protest, to show everyone that publishing in a Yoruba newspaper does not make you an inferior personality in the society. No. Rather, where if it is a place where these things are appreciated, we should be celebrated, because that money is not there. The government, especially if you have a newspaper like Alaroye, where you try to be independent, where you try to say it as it is, where you try as much as you can do to direct the masses, to explain things to them, you become enemy of politicians, and most especially some other people who are in government, and all they want to do is to ensure that that newspaper itself is not coming out. So all patronage that you should have seen from them, you are not going to see it from them. Now back to the question, is it a protest? Yes, a protest that Yoruba can do better. As I earlier said, that the newspaper industry here in Nigeria was started with the Yoruba newspaper, but I will quickly to add that if while then the newspaper could only run for about 7 years, because it died 1867, though for another reason entirely. But after that, for the next 22 years, there was no Yoruba newspaper in what later became Nigeria, despite the fact that most of the people who are running the affairs of the government, who are doing everything, were Yoruba. Still, the interest in the language was dying, and people had to come out again and say, no, we will not allow Yoruba language to be relegated because of English language. So some people came out again, and we started having newspaper. One Andrew Thomas produced one in 1888 before another Yoruba redentist, Deniga, who published Ikwakete in 1922. Ikwakete was such a success because exactly what we are trying to portray now, he did that. He was whining and dining with all those matters in society. And the only newspaper I had was a Yoruba newspaper. But of course, it couldn't go far again. He died. So other came, a lady of Akedeko, but the same thing befell them until 1945 when Alaroye came out. Alaroye came out, and that was from area of Chief Obafemi Awolowo then. And Chief Awolowo did something for all of us that we are still enjoying, and that was that he used the government power, encouraging writers, Yoruba writers, to write in Yoruba language. And I'm very sure when you look at some of Dio Fagunwa's book, you will see tribute paid to Chief Awolowo and his government then. Not only that, Chief Awolowo started the development of Yoruba language. Yeah, there had been efforts before, but scholars will know that 1953 there were committees set up to look into Yoruba grammar, to look into the development of a language, and that continued until you have the Akoto committee, which later produced the one we were using. And you will know that these were the best of times for Yoruba literature, because that was when we had good writers who were just coming out and churning out books, and people were encouraged to read. So, but after that, again, the whole thing went down. So, and the Yoruba language relegated back to where some people wanted to be. So when you say you are doing anything in Yoruba language, people just look at you and say, what exactly are you doing? So that exactly was a protest why Alaroye came out. And that was exactly why I personally put in a lot of efforts to ensure that I am educated enough to run a standard newspaper, and to ensure that I employ those who can help me as well, so that wherever you see my staff, wherever you see them, you are going to see either graduate, either a master's degree holder, and you'll be able to talk to. He will be able to stand among his peers anywhere. So it is a protest, but the protest is still on. And I want to tell you that my appearance here before you scholars and eminent personalities.
So thank you very much, sir. You have given us a great exposition. But one thing that is clear is that you launched out to protest. And the protest then was that Yoruba language is not inferior to any other language. We want to thank you for that. And one thing that is obvious from what you said is that you didn't launch out because of profit. No, it's not the profit, it's the interest. The interest that you as a person, you have in the development of Yoruba studies generally. I want to say thank you. But there's this question, sir, that I want to ask. You have four titles. 4 titles in Yoruba. You have Alaroye magazine, you have Akéde Àgbáyé, you have Ìrírí Ayé, Alaroye, and you have Alaroye itself. Sir, why did you publish 4 titles at a time? Is it part of that protest? Hello, sir.
His internet is off once again. Why waiting for, are you back? He's having internet issues. Why waiting for his internet to be back? May I please introduce Professor Pamela Smith, who has a forthcoming book. It will be released in December. Shaworeide, the translation of Shaworeide. Please, Mark, can you speak to us for a few minutes on this project?
Hello, everyone. I had been working on Shaworeide, the translation of Shaworeide, Akinwumi Ishola, Ishola's Shaworeide for the past year and a half. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. For the past year and a half, it's the 6th book, well, the 5th book of translation, 4 of Ishola and 1 of Baba Faleti. And it's of the 5 books, boy, Shaworeide has shown me a thing or two. But it's been successfully done, thanks to assistance from a number of you, most especially my baby brother, Tunde Akinyemi, that I see on here for acknowledgement. When I find those kokoro, Ijinle Yoruba, it's one of those, I make an attempt of it, and then call on Tunde night and day to confirm whether or not I'm on the right path. I had, well, I still have, I think, in spirit, a relationship with Professor, well, the late Professor Akinwumi Ishola, who gave me carte blanche to translate absolutely any of his works. So I've basically done that as a disciple, a self-styled disciple of his. And this will be coming out as Ojogbon Toyifalola said, will be coming out in December. I'm hoping that I can bring a suitcase full as teasers for us. Yes. Okay, something to look forward to.
Thank you very much. We are grateful. And let me use this opportunity. We are also working on Ishola's handwritten plays. They were not typed. We handwrote them, and we have 2 of them that we will also be publishing and translating. And she will be, Mama Smith will be translating them.
Has already translated them.
Yeah, already translated them. We can't thank you enough. We can bring you back. Please don't go. Because as the internet of Alaroye is disrupted, we won't stop the program. We will just make it more lively. Alaroye is back again, please. Please. Go ahead. We can't hear you, ma. We cannot hear you, Professor Anikwe.
before the internet of Alaroye dipped off, I was asking, sir, that you published 4 titles
Professor
in Yoruba. Are you with me, sir? Are you hearing me, sir? Sir? Hello, sir. Sir?
Alaroye cannot hear you, ma.
Hello, sir.
He cannot hear you.
Are you hearing me now, sir?
No.
Hello? But you are...
He cannot hear you. He can't hear you.
But Prof, are you hearing me?
I can hear you. Everybody can hear you, but Alaroye cannot hear you.
Okay, all right.
It's having serious challenges. But we will continue with the program. When his internet is back, we're talking. He's having serious internet challenges. And he has a TV station radio. So this should not be happening to him. When his internet is back, let me bring in. Let's vacate Alaroye and bring in Professor Akinloye Ojo. Professor Akinloye Ojo, let's bring you in conversation with Professor Alao Adedayo. You've also translated Akinwumi Shola's work, and I've been privileged to read part of it for publication, and it will be forthcoming in a series that I edit for Bloomsbury. Can you tell us what this work is all about?
Oh, thank you very much, sir. The purpose of the project is to complete a promise that I made to Professor Akinwumi Shola about 20-something years ago when I was a graduate student. When he was visiting with the University of Georgia, I told him, even though I wasn't focused on, my research was not on Yoruba language, but I promised I was going to attempt to translate Afaimo, which is his solitary ontology of poetry in Yoruba. And so he was excited about the prospect. Unfortunately, life and other things has just really kept it on the sideline. So, but I've continued working on it. I've published a lot of the translations of the different poems. So now finally I've completed translating all the poems. And I've also submitted a proposal to write about the process, the content, as well as the process of translating Afaimo into English. So that's what the project's about. Part of it is talking about Akinwumi Shola, renowned novelist, renowned playwright, but often not fully acknowledged as a poet, even though we have this few poems collected in Afaimo. He still has a whole body of poetry that is not within. So I'm going to include all those in my conversation, my discussion of his writing as a poet, a Yoruba poet. So that's what the project is about, and we're hoping that it should be out by 2022. Both the translation, the anthology in English, as well as a discussion of the translation process.
Thank you. So what would be your suggestion? How we can accumulate all this work? The one by you, the one by Professor Pamela Smith. How can we accumulate all of them?
I think we have to be careful, because when you say accumulate, this is a translation of just one anthology. What Professor Pamela Smith has done by itself, the amount of work she's done in terms of translating Ishola. I think the first project should be, how do we end up with a production where we get the original text from Akeem Mishola and the body of work from Pamela Smith? I think that will make an exceptional production where people will not only look for the individual translations, but actually get a compendium of both the original work as well as Professor Smith's translation. Because luckily I've been part of a couple of those projects. And I think it would be exciting to have a session where one can get all of them together. Now, if we want to talk about Famo being added, I think it might be kind of out of place, given the connection between the work that Professor Smith has done, both with his writing about his young years, the ones that were actually not creative work, but written based on his life experiences. Those by themselves, I think, will form a good body of a collection, I think.
Mama Smith, do you have any response to that, please? You want to respond?
Yes, I do. And it's something that I think about a lot. I agree with Professor Ojo. And quite a number of us have been in the thick of this and in the woods. It will be done. And of course, kudos to both you, Ojogbon TF and Tunde Akinyemi, who did that, the Perspectives book of essays. We're on the right track. But this is a man whose works will live on way beyond a number of us, and the only way we can do this, and quite frankly, it's this promise to him that he'll never die. He'll live through his works, and the relationship I was referring to earlier is this, many of us, well, at least the number of us that have been working with him, have this personal translator, enviable position, translator-author relationship, or author-translator relationship that still carries us, on. And so ideas are coming up every day. And incidentally, the two works, the plays that you referred to in his handwriting, they've never been published. Mrs. Ishola gave these to me about 1.5 years ago. And right away, I translated them. They're playlets, so they'll both be combined. But then, so one other thing is the fact that we actually see how this man worked, how he composed these texts. Handwritten, beautiful handwriting. So somebody might do an essay on his scripting, abilities, page after page. And I did ask Mrs., how does this man compose all these works? And he said she said he'd shut the door, and there it is. No laptop, no gizmo, none of these artificial machinery that helps the likes of us, that we can kind of produce things overnight. And so those two works will give us, short works, will give us an insight into the man's artistry. The works themselves really are a superficial view of the extent of this artistry and the extent to which it really carried Yoruba language. Okay.
Thank you.
I hope that answers.
Let us know when you are back. Are you back? Alaroye?
Yes, I'm back. Yes, I'm there.
You can hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Let's transit to Professor Akinloye Ojo to that interview Professor Anika Adedayo, I apologize for the way it went. Hopefully, this segment will be better. Thank you. Professor Akinloye, please ask questions. Professor Ojo.
Okay, now I am unmuted.
Yeah.
Eka sir.
Eka sao.
Ekushel. Ọlọ́run máa ṣagbára yín dọ̀tun o.
Àmì àṣẹ, ẹ ṣé.
Boni, I want to first of all begin pé Yorùbá ṣe máa ń sọ pé yínníyínní kẹ́ni ṣèmí. I think the question tí Professor Anikpe was trying to ask you ni pé given the challenges of not having as much patronage as regular or other newspapers who are written in English, why have 4 titles? I think maybe to give you a chance to respond. Why do we have 4 different Alaroye titles?
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. It's a way of marketing and trying as much as we can do to ensure that our people get the best, despite the fact that they do not have the purchasing power which we would have preferred them to have. So you are
It's gone again.
going to see that all the newspapers from our tables have different. They have different focus paper. But we have the magazine. The magazine is larger and bigger because in most cases, what we do is to go into the past by bringing research work in Yoruba language to our people. So we search if we want stories like Fushitaniwa, stories like Madam Tinubu, stories like Bumola, stories like Darosha, and many stories like that. If we want to do it in Alaroye, it's going to be too bulky, and the purchasing power of our people will not carry that. So in that way, we just try to, as much as we can do, have Alaroye magazine maybe once in 2 months or once in 3 months, so that we can load this with a lot of historical stories. Then we have the Akebe. Akebe is just for entertainment. Those who want to read about musicians, about artists, and about our culture, it's in Akebe. Then the area is odd word. So in Kombe, Orishirishi. So we put that also separately, so that we do not want people to look to lose focus on Alaroye, because Alaroye is not just only a newspaper; it is a voice and part of Yoruba people, because it is what we bear the name. So we want it so, but we know that the purchasing power of our people, especially the grassroots, and these are those who buy the newspaper most, so we have to take them into consideration, and that is why you have those different newspapers there.
Okay, all right. Sir, I would love to ask I guess I don't want to say the most important question in terms of the youth, because I know as somebody who is fighting for the language and doing your best to ensure the survival of the Yoruba language. Earlier you mentioned challenges with fundraising, number one. Also, in terms of you're not in this project for profit, but there is a common notion, without even going into policy, there is a general perception among the youth that one of the reasons why a lot of our youth are not engaged with the language, with Yoruba language, and most of our national languages, is the limited economic returns. You hardly get a job if you're a Yoruba major, a lot of things. So I want to ask for your reaction. What do you think about this general perception that how then do we discuss getting over this unfortunate perception that if you learn Yoruba, if you study Yoruba, you are definitely destined for poverty?
Yes. The perception is wrong, actually. And that's where I want to begin from. Okay. I would say it is lack of initiative on the part of our youth. Mm-hmm. So, and that is part of the problems mm-hmm. that have been created by the so-called elites, Yoruba elites in our society, because they were the one who started this relegation of their own language. So by doing that, they encourage the youth and their children to see the language as inferior. So no one is looking into whatever benefit or whatever. I must say that the effort we put into producing Alaroye doubles effort that you use to produce an English newspaper. So the reason is that you want somebody who has a Yoruba background, a graduate of Yoruba from any of the university, and you still want him or her to have at least a diploma in journalism so that he will be able to know what he or she is doing. So if people like us can just come and do this type of thing, as I earlier told you, it is because of the gap I saw.
All right.
And Alaroye was published 4 times before we were able to civilize. When I started it in 1985, we did it for some weeks and it died because there was no money to publish again. So 1990 again, I did it. And it died again. In fact, like you are mentioning about launching, we've not gone to such level where you could just say, okay, I'm publishing something for you. I want you to come and donate. Everybody will just say, so no one will come here donating for you because you are publishing a newspaper. And as I said, in fact, the government that are supposed to give you the most support in this line will not, except where you start praising them, where you start talking about them, where you start talking about their parties. Even when you are lying to the people, yes, they could afford to give you certain amount of money. But if you want to have a standard Yoruba newspaper, definitely you will not be able to go that. Then the youth will now have to look into other areas, and that is what I mean by lack of initiative on the part of the youth, thinking that there's no money, there's no. Yes, you may not become a billionaire. Yeah. And you will not become a billionaire. If you think inward, but how are we going to encourage this youth, this coming generation, or this generation we are even, to be able to see the language as something that could bring certain benefits to them? So what do you do if you are in an occasion and another stands up, another that's supposed to be the custodian of the Yoruba culture and says, ẹjọ́ mi ò ní lè sọ̀rọ̀ tí mo fẹ́ sọ ní Yorùbá o, ẹgbà mi láyè kí n sọ Yorùbá o torí pé Yorùbá mi ò dá o. That's a number. So if a number says that, of course, it has actually created the language, because all those who are there will say, okay, nítorí èmi bàbá sọ pé òun ò lè sọ Yorùbá, kí lèmi wá fẹ́ máa sọ Yorùbá sí? And that is what we have among our youth. But look, I want to give certain examples. Look at this new pop music they are doing. Look at Davido. I knew the most popular was Baba Olowo, Madam Idu, Baba Olowo. Yes, and the gentleman who started this idea of using Yoruba for pop, I think was I'm trying to recollect his name. Who sang the Gongwa So Akutukwahu, and
that was nice.
Nice, and everybody, but and he was even using AV. Yes. Was using AV, was using Yala in the pop music, and it became things that others now follow to do. That's what I mean by lack of initiative from their part. So we and this is where we have a lot of work to do. The scholars, the users of the language, and the general public. The first set of people to agree on doing certain things are the scholars and the users. So if we work together, we want a language that will endure, then we have to continue to develop the language.
Right.
So we have known now that the government is not making Yoruba language a language of commerce.
Right.
So if it is not a language of commerce, it's very difficult for any parents. They say, people will not say their mother tongue, speak your mother tongue, and they continue to ask, which exactly is the mother tongue? Yeah. The mother is not speaking Yoruba. The mother is speaking English to the child. So the child is speaking the language of his mother. So that is the mother's tongue. Right. Until we are able to convince the mother that because I can speak in English language, it does not and cannot affect my faculty of conscience, which enables me to know the good and the bad. So we should be able to let them know that. We should be able to let them know that, okay, when I speak English language, it does not increase or decrease my intelligence quotient.
That's right.
So it does not in any way affect my effectiveness or efficiency in whatever I do. That language is just language. It does not show me. It doesn't have anything to do with me. Just for him to speak. So, and a language that is being spoken by over 20 million people, you cannot say such a language vernacular or that such a language could not be. We've gotten the crowd. We've gotten enough people who patronize whatever you have. So it's for you just to find the way and develop. But you parents will have to help to ensure that this youth, this young one, know about their language.
Right.
Know about the language. Like I said earlier, when Bafemi was developing the Yoruba language, he involved the scholars. He involved the people in the market. He involved the users of the language. And that was why he was able to achieve whatever we achieved in the 60s and 70s, where the Macmillans of this world, the Longman and the other publishers came here because of Yoruba books, Geofagwa books, Delana books, and others like that. So if we can work together again and develop the language to such a level that literature can, we can approach the government to say this is what we are doing. But individuals cannot do that except both the scholars who are experts in the language and the users. So the town and the down people should now come together, work together so as to help this youth. They need our help. That is what we should just know. They need our help. A lot of things are just not the way it should be in terms of our language. When you have a boy that you named Ogundamisi,
right,
and this boy, when he got to school or wherever he got to, they say, oh, why should we be bearing such a long name? And the first of all, change the name to Damisi. And later somebody say again, say, to go to Damisi, change it to Damsi. And we change the name to Damsi. And bearing Damsi now, eventually, along the line, he becomes a pastor, Pastor Damsi. Do you sure he's a Ghanaian or a Nigeria? Or so what are you going to say about that? So, and we are here, we see all these things happening. And the mother will be laughing, oh, what else do you need? Not knowing that she's actually sending a whole of generation of people away. Because end of the day, the children that man is going to be damned. In Yoruba, as you know, we've gotten a lot of ways to identify ourselves.
That's right.
If you go out and you say, okay, what is your name? And you are there, you say, somebody say, my name is Alaba, my name is Idowu, my name is Kende, my name is Taiwo, my name is Ajayi, my name is Lori. All these names have meaning in Yoruba. So, do you know? And if not for that, there are other ways that we identify ourselves. It may be from your delay. It may be from the job of your family. Maybe an alagbede, maybe an a warrior. When people see me, they say, I want to Ogunjobi ọmọ Abẹ́lórí Ògúnjìàjìà. Okay, this is from a good family. They also ask from where are you? You say, I'm Egba man, say, Egba sẹ́yìn Yorùbá máa ṣe ẹ̀rìtì mi kíkan. You do that for you. You know. You don't say, okay, what is oríkìlẹ̀ yín? You don't say, oríkìlẹ̀ wa. Èyí ẹ̀ṣọ́ yan bí lóòótọ́ ẹ̀bí ẹ̀ máa dúró ẹbí fọ́bà máa ròyìn ọdún bàrà fagbẹ̀. Then you say that people also identify. But how many of our youth know all this? How many parents do even know the oriki of their family? Do they even want to associate with it? I've had someone say, I'm not very oriki, So these are the areas where we have to look into. And as I've said, it has gotten to a stage where the language cannot save itself. It is people like you and I that must now put effort together to ensure that we save the language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I also don't want to always put you in the spot where you have to speak for policy makers. So I want to focus on your own wonderful contribution to the development of a language. And I want to ask you about the International Center for Yoruba Arts and Culture, that you were a major player in the establishment in 2020. So how is the effort going? Because the center was supposed to be a depository, kind of a place to go for research, result, artifact, everything that has to do with Yoruba language and Yoruba culture. So I want to ask, what is the status of the project and the center as of today?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you say, it is what we plan to be our contribution. But I used to tell people that the International Center for Yoruba Art and Culture is not an Alaroye project.
Okay.
It's not Alao Adedayo's project.
Okay.
I want it to be seen and to be held as a Yoruba project. I have one idea about the Yoruba people, and that is, if we come together to decide to do something, we can do it better. So if all of us say this is what we want to be, what I saw, just like I was talking about Alaroye, what I saw was that there is another gap here now. I was trying to look for some books here and there, Yoruba books written in Ibadan, in the University of Ibadan, for instance, book written in Lagos, and I couldn't get the books. After running around for a while, somebody said that, why don't you go to British Library? You see the book there. I said, looking for book Nigeria like that.
Right.
I go to British Library. So go there. And when I got there, truly, the book was there. The book was by pen. Was pen. And I saw it there. And then the other came and said, if this could happen, well, if I could as a whole, because of the enormous resources that church will require, I should be in all my life is about Yoruba. So then we got a place inside the University of Ibadan, a picture of what we have in mind. And by God's grace, that is going to happen November 23rd. So inside the University of Ibadan, we are hoping that the first president, Yemi Osinbajo, will be the one to actually come. Not because the place is gigantic, or because we are just trying to, just as we said, we are just trying to launch a protest. We are just trying to say, okay, this is a place. So all of you here now, if there are books, you say, okay, I want to donate, I want to give my books here. You can come to your place, make copies of books. If you do not want to give them to us, we will come there with copies, we will come there with everything, and we will have them reproduced and brought them to the center. Then that is not the only thing. A lot of things, when you say Yoruba, there are a lot of things that these things are involved. It's not just only, it does an aspect, documentation. Yes, we do not have a documentation center. We must have one. Then there is this reconstruction of our history, which must be done as well. We must be able to have something. If we go to, I'm glad that Kubaba is here with us. If we go to Afro and we say we want to, I've been there, and so Baba has told me a lot of things. But if we now go there officially with camera, with everything, and then and we wanted to record Baba, and Baba give us something, and it will be there for life. And we could say, Baba, oh, give us, we have a corner for you inside that center, the Alaafin Adeyemi's corner. So we have it. So whatever you want about Alaafin Adeyemi, in 50 years, we are going to see it there. That is what we want to do. Then we, as we are saying, there's difference between Oyinbo Zoo and the Yoruba Zoo. We want an artificial forest, whereby anyone could just walk around this forest, where you see our trees, where you see our leaves, where you see those things. Because in those things are the real language of the people. When you say apá ọmọdé ò ká bí ó ṣe wọ̀, ṣebí ìgbà tí ọmọdé bá rí bí ó ṣe ló máa mọ̀ bá pọ̀ nǹkan bí ó kà. So if an ọmọdé does not know English, and whatever you say about that, you are just talking to yourself. Ọmọ tó bá dárí sapá apá, ọmọ tó bá dárí sọ̀rọ̀ kó àkùnà kòkònà, ọmọ tó bá dárí sórí rù wọ́n á rù kú ẹ̀ wálé látọ̀nà oko. You will have to know all this. Right. And these are the areas where the language is dying. If there's nothing to show.
Okay.
We have children in the city who do not even know a lot about the palm. No, and they are Lagos, except whatever they read. Right. Whereas what the Yoruba will do with Tope is different from what the Yoruba people will do with Tope, because we have proverbs, we have idioms that we use this palm tree.
So, Professor Akinloye Ojo, what is the status of Yoruba teaching in the United States?
Well, I will still quickly, can I note that I would like to ask him in terms of collaboration with all the different groups.
Yeah, but his internet is not working.
Okay, well, to talk about Yoruba language, I think it will have been ideal to have the president of the Association for Yoruba Teachers. But I can give you a background is that thankfully the teaching of Yoruba language to foreigners and second language learners is always growing in the United States. We've been lucky because of the US government policy of insisting that students take a foreign language, and because of the growth, both interest of those who are direct descendants of Yoruba language and culture, children of migrants, as well as those who also have the historical connection, we've been able to generate a population. So the teaching of Yoruba is doing very well in the US. I think right now it's about 39 or so universities where Yoruba is taught to foreigners. And so within the US, definitely there's a good future for Yoruba. And a few years ago, we started an association, a professional association for teachers of Yoruba. It's called the African Association of Teachers of Yoruba in America, AATY. And that organization is growing from strength to strength, and it's not the only one. So teaching of Yoruba in the US to foreigners is doing very well. But one area that we're also thinking about is how to begin to have more heritage learners programs where children of Yoruba people who are recent migrants can have access to learning the language. But thankfully, the people on the internet are doing wonderful kind of gap filling, just like the guest was talking about. They've also recognized the need that whereas not every child or children of our migrants will end up going to a university where Yoruba is taught, they're now offering online classes. So one has to recognize those efforts. So you have agencies now realizing that the Yoruba population in the US is growing. So generally speaking, given the collaboration between the professional teachers in the universities, those who are agitators for the language, I hate to use the word agitators, activists for the language. So there's a collaboration going to address both the foreign population as well as the direct descendants population. So generally speaking, teaching of Yoruba language is doing well in the US, but there's still room for growth, definitely.
Thank you very much. And what about the community outside of universities? What can we do?
Okay, well, I think the first step is, as he was talking about, the idea of being aware of where we are. I think it's important because I've been in the United States for a couple of decades now, and every year there's always this agitation coming together of Yoruba descendants unions. And in some places they are doing a good job, but I think it's important to bring all these resources together, sort of encourage these unions to not have only city-specific or state-specific program, but to kind of have a program that can be replicated across the country. So there were some people in North Carolina that used to do summer classes, but because of enrollment and frustration of not having so many people, that kind of program could have been replicated in different parts of the country where you have sizable Yoruba populations.
We have here some members of associations. We have someone here from Dallas who's a member of the Yoruba Association.
Right.
The doctor in Dallas has just opened a Yoruba Cultural Center.
That's right.
With his own resources, paying salary and staff, with a museum and language. So maybe we can encourage people with resources to have more of those.
That's right.
Is there a Yoruba radio station in the US? Is there one?
Well, I don't think there is one that one can say state-owned, but there are a lot of efforts on the internet. There are a lot of Facebook-based Yoruba stations. I remember when I had my dad visit the US 2006, there were a couple of radio stations that actually interviewed him right from our house here. So they are, but they are more focused on Yoruba music. They talk a lot about Yoruba politics. But eventually we will still need to have, maybe I don't know about it, but I'm almost certain there are enough effort in terms of online radio stations that something can come out that can be considered a nationwide radio station. But right now I don't know of any beyond the internet radio stations.
Okay, that may be one thing to pursue.
Right.
So that this will have a wider effect than all the smaller ones. Please, can you ask another question? Is back again?
Yes. Oh, Ekushesa. It has to do with collaboration between the different people who are really interested in development of the language. For example, I know that in Ibadan, there is the Center for Yoruba Language Engineering under the leadership of Professor Kola Wolabi. So, big question. In as much as I don't want you to talk for policymakers, is there anything that such organizations and such movements or people who are interested will do to do a collaborative work? Because Karen Kapo, just as Yoruba people said, I think the impact will be greater. So I would like to know what is your own opinion in terms of these different non-political groups, language-centered groups, media-centered groups, to work together to sort of increase the access as well as the reach of the Yoruba language within Yoruba land.
Thank you very much, sir. For instance, as you just mentioned now, CELING, that is Center for Yoruba Language Engineering, is personally, I am a member of the group, and actually we are working together on most of things we do.
Okay.
So, and we even have our offices in the same building. So, and we've been on for this. We've been even before now. It has been a very, very long relationship that we have. So, because as earlier said, what we want to establish inside that university is not for individual.
Okay.
It is for the Yoruba people. And when we want to do this, it means that every organization that has to give any input into development of Yoruba language must be a part of what we are doing. I've spoken with the Waisan group, so I've spoken with Belgium Yoruba and other associations. And right now, we are in collaboration with Yoruba Language Center, Institute of African Studies, and others. And we are also in Ife, because I've met the people in Ife too. We are also in University of Lagos. I met them. So, and the explanation remains the same, and that is we want to establish something for the Yoruba people, so that wherever we go, wherever we come, let us create a kingdom within a kingdom, whereby when you get inside there, you know that you are in a Yoruba kingdom because of what we are going to see. And we want to stay a place where you can just come down there, stay there for 2, 3, 4 months, and do whatever research you want to do without you going anywhere. So we want to provide every facility that will be needed for such things. So we are all out. And I said it. We are all out. We are all out. In fact, the cultural center in Dallas, we got in touch with them, and so we've been spoken. So, and I believe that as time goes on, there is going to be a more beneficial relationship between the organization, and that's why the first thing we want to do is to have that center declared open by all of you, so that once it's open in November, then we can just start.
Thank you very much. We can't really run away from talking about the government. I've tried my best to, because I'm really excited about your projects and the things you're doing, even without as one would have expected in terms of government support. But I want to ask, in 2017, the Lagos State Assembly, working with one of our colleagues, Professor Harrison Adeni, ended up creating a law that says Yoruba must be taught at all levels. Every school in Lagos State must learn Yoruba, I must teach Yoruba. And there were a lot of agitations. And one of the things I've always said is, let people go to court if they don't agree. But I've always thought one day all the Yoruba states will do this. So my question to you is, what are the roles that you see the government, first and foremost, playing to assist in the development of our national languages, in this case, Yoruba, given our own interest in Yoruba? And to extend that question, what would be some of the roles that other stakeholders can also play? You've talked about parents, and you've also talked about people like you, but I would like to know if you could talk to the different stakeholders. what roles do they have to play, or what roles can they play in the safeguarding of the language and culture?
Thank you very much. Let's start from the government.
Yes.
As you know, the government everywhere in the world always has a lot on its table. So, ẹlẹ́rìí ló kọ́ ń gbé. If we actually want the government to do whatever they want for us, then the stakeholders must have, as the initial beginning, a formidable team. The people who are in government are those we know already, but certain decisions they cannot just take. It is for us to go to them, explain to them why these decisions have to be taken. We have done a lot of their works for them, that in law, this is what binds you. So this is what binds you. You are allowed to do this thing. You are allowed to do this thing. And we have to encourage them. If for instance, the Lagos State start using Yoruba in one day, I remember very well when the state started this, the state did this thing around 2004, 2005 or so, right. And I took a team from Alaroye to go to them, play with them, and thank them for what they have done. But because there was no follow-up, and do not forget that government comes, government goes. If any government is not interested in what we are doing, that's all. They are not bound to.
It's frozen again.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Professor Ojo, and then
yes, sir.
Scholars who are also experts will now go into other.
It's frozen again.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the diaspora, why Brazil and these other places. Yes, how can we fuse all these places together and create a larger umbrella, both for the language and its culture?
Well, I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, but I think we have to be careful once we start talking about Yoruba diaspora, because motivations for people being part of Yoruba language and culture in the diaspora varies a lot. Now, does that mean we cannot think of an umbrella, even if it's only merely representative? I think it's possible. It's just that we must really think very well about it, because some people come to Yoruba language and culture for more. Okay, I think it's back. More functional purposes. So you have to really know what the motivations are. But on the larger scale, when we focus on language, when we focus on language pedagogy, a way to unify a lot of people who are interested, those that we call Europhobes or Europhonic people across the world. Because when you think about pedagogy, Yoruba language is offered and taught to non-native speakers in different parts of the world. So that might be a way, and I'm speaking because I'm also a language teacher, that could be a way to begin to bring this together. Religion is another topic, because those who practice Yoruba-derived religions across the world have similarities and things they share. So if we approach the question in those two areas, we might find a way to bring all the different elements of Yoruba diaspora together. But I'm just warning that not to assume that the kind of unity we have because of motivation, because of heritage, exists everywhere. It's going to vary. So we need to find something that will be able to bring them together, first and foremost, before we even develop content. That's my position.
Thank you. Because of the nature by which Professor Ojo came in, just as transitioner, I did not have the opportunity to introduce him. He's a professor in the Department of Comparative Literature and Intercultural Studies and the Director of African Studies Institute, University of Georgia, and is also a member of the Department of Linguistics, as well as the Institute for African American Studies. I've known him for a long time. His dad, who is also a very famous radio person, is on this program. So he was born with the language. He's been with the language from the very first day he came into the world. He went to Ibadan, and as he grew in the academy, he focused on the languages and linguistics, on translation, indigenous knowledge, culture, and society. I've been to his campus a few times, and I wrote an essay on him and his work, and he's a very widely published scholar. He's a founding member of the Association of Yoruba Teachers, and we have had the privilege of publishing one of their conference papers for them. We wish you well. Please ask your last question.
Yes, sir. Stakeholders. I would like you to finish your thought as per the role for the different stakeholders, or primarily in government.
Yes, as I was saying, the experts and users will have to put ourselves together and form a formidable team. Then we can now bring outsiders as well. I'm not saying the group is going to be unwavering, that is going to be too large, but those who can even talk to those who are making policies, then we can now go together to them. But that will be after we have prepared ourselves. Let's look at it this way. If, for instance, the Lagos state government says, okay, if you want to secure an employment from us, we are going to conduct interview for you in Yoruba language. What do you think it will happen? The parents will start immediately teaching her words and Yoruba language. So if the government says, okay, before you get into my university, if you are a Yoruba person, you must have passed Yoruba language at O level. So that's just it. Don't just put policy. It will change everything. If the government says, okay, this is our government. From Monday to Friday, we want to be having Yoruba attires. Who says all attires in Yoruba are better than others? Certain attires will be defined and designed that are going to be very good for the people to wear to work. So after all, we were working before we were colonized, and we've been doing a lot of things. So we can, but these are decisions that no individual can take. And do not forget that these are role models. The people in government, the people in politics, once they start wearing something, you find out that the society start wearing it. When they start doing something, you find out that people do. So, but they need to be talked to, not in harsh form. No, we are not saying they are locals or they have neglected their roots. No, we do not want to go with that approach. We want to talk to them. And that will happen only after we have prepared ourselves. We have known what we want to talk about. We have known the decision we want to talk about. The parents here are just handicapped. I look at them when they say, sorry about yes, it's only those who have the time and who can afford it. They say, okay, I will be speaking to you in Yoruba language. So, because we are also still going to teach him or her in subjects in English. Do not forget that all subjects are taught in English. And we believe that if you do not know English, you are not going to pass any of this subject. So how do we change that? It is for us, and the first contact, that is the EU experts and the users, to form policies for the government. The government may not be the one forming that policy for us, but we have to form the policy and say, okay, this is what we are going to do, this is what we are going to do, this is what we are going to do. And if we have a political power now needed to be exerted, we now go to those who we know that know about politics and say, oh, well, this is what you want. And once that, if everybody see that the program is okay, it's for development, it has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, you can be sure that we are going to get somewhere. But focusing only on parents that I must because the parents see no benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Is it nothing in speaking of the language?
Right.
So when he or she does not even also understand.
Right.
And everything is now being swept away, and then we say whenever you just go away, they go to church or go to mosque or go to anywhere and say this are the situation in the country, whereby the roles of every roles have actually been taken over by religion. It's another problem entirely for what we are going through. So I think we just have to find a way. It's good that we are discussing this. We have to find a way of coming together and ensuring that we have a team that's going to work on these things.
Thank you very much, sir. But before the mic is taken from me, I just have to add that we also have to, as much as I appreciate the cultural advocacy, I think we need to also begin to reshape our mindset. We got to have economic advocacy for the language. When Lagos State they passed the bill, we were so excited because we know that will increase the number of Yoruba teachers. Private schools, they were sharing Yoruba teachers who have no choice but to get their own teachers. And we also realized they have to publish books. That will give jobs to editors. When musicians begin to make it, and so we have to begin to now start thinking of Yoruba as an economic, the economic element or the value for speakers.
Exactly.
Once we begin to do that, I think we will also change our own perception. It's wonderful that we're, for example, assemblies, they will speak Yoruba on Thursday. But I'm saying, what does that do for the average people? You're doing what you should be doing biologically. So if they begin to see the value of the economic returns that will come from developing national languages, I think their mindset will begin to change. But that is just my own personal opinion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Ojo. Let me use this opportunity to go to our third person, Professor Tunde Akinyemi, and I'm trying to be very sensitive to Alaroye's internet crisis. Professor Tunde Akinyemi, I've known him for a long time, dating back from Ife, and today is a professor of African languages and literature and the chair of the Department of Languages, Literatures and Cultures, University of Florida in Gainesville, and is an affiliate of the Center for African Studies, where I also directs the African Flagship Languages Initiative Program. He's taken students to Nigeria very many times, and he keeps taking them to Ife and to Ibadan. He works on language pedagogy, literature, Yoruba diaspora, mythology, storytelling, and he's done books on riddles, royal poetry, dictionary, and he's teamed up to do the Handbook of African Oral Traditions, a book on Shango, and he also did a book, Emerging Perspectives on Akinwumi. And at the moment, he's one of the co-editors of the Yoruba Studies Review. Thank you very much, Mr. Akinyemi. If this internet goes bad, I will be asking you the questions to answer.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Falola, Alao Adedayo. A pleasure seeing you again. Let me take you out of your comfort zone, because I think we've been discussing about Alaroye since we started this conversation. And I want to take you up on the focus of your newspaper. In Yoruba, it says, "Ìwé ìròyìn tó ń ṣojú ọmọ Yorùbá níbi gbogbo." which means you are concerned about the Yoruba beyond the speaking, writing of Yoruba language. You are concerned about the Yoruba people. And I think one of the major concerns in the Yoruba society today, which is the Yoruba in Nigeria, is politics. And there has been agitation for restructuring, some actually advocating for Yoruba nation, Oduduwa Republic. Can you please educate this forum for these agitations? Why are the Yorubas agitating for restructuring and also some requesting for Oduduwa Republic?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The agitation for restructuring will always continue, except and until when the government listens to the people. It is not because agitators. No. Whoever think that way will be misrepresenting the fact. Those of us at home and others even at abroad, if we look at the situation in Nigeria now, we see that we have certain problems in the structure of the government and its machineries. And a lot have happened before now, and that is the problem. The major problem is that those who are agitating for restructuring are saying things should not be done the way it is being done, or the way it has been done for a very long time. That there should be and there must be a change. The change they are talking about is that there must be equal representation in government and its entirety. It's not because Yoruba people want money that you should give us money. No. What we say is that whatever is our own share should be given to us. I want to digress a bit. In 1953, there was census, and in that year census, Lagos, and we are talking of Lagos Island, recorded 267,000 folks as 227 population, and Kano recorded 130,000. But along the line, by the time we were having the 1991 census, and that was after Jigawa State had been taken out of Kano, Kano still had more population than Lagos. Even today on papers, you are going to find out that the paper still regarded Kano as the most populous city or state in Nigeria, whereas all of us know the truth. This is part of the problem we are facing, and this is the reason why the clamoring for restructuring continues to go like that. If the government actually want to douse this tension, it is just by just listening. Who are those people who are always getting government appointment, and why? That is exactly, especially important sectors like those manning the security of the nation. Where are our own people in the setting? That is it. When issue of income, when your state is producing and making some certain amount as revenue, And you eventually, whenever this accumulated revenue is to be divided now, the state that made more of this money is giving less, whereas states that did not contribute much are giving more. So definitely, those who are working will have the right to protest and to say, no, we do not want this. What we want is a change. What we are asking for is a change. It's not that Yoruba just agitators. We are asking for change, and we should not allow politicians or anyone to deceive us. That is the clamor by the people. That is what the people want. They want to have what is seen as a change in the way they are governed, in the way they are being ruled, in the way their resources are being shared. I think that is it. That is where we are.
Okay. Thank you so much for that explanation. I have a follow-up question to that. What I have noticed is that there are different organizations speaking for the Yoruba people. And I'll give you some of them. You have the Yoruba Elders, Yoruba Council of Elders, Afenifere as it on its own, and then we have the Afenifere Renewal Group, Yoruba Unity Forum, Yoruba Ronu, Oduduwa People's Congress. Is the Yoruba divided? Do we have leadership problem in the land?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yoruba are not divided, but you will say leadership problem. Yes, Yoruba are not divided in what they want. What they want, as I earlier said, is equal share. Give us what is ours. No, we are not asking for what belongs to others. No, what is the basis for all this clamoring, all this give us restructuring, give us this, give us that? But we have leadership problem, and that is why exactly the people who we are facing, those in the government, and do not forget that when we say those people we are facing, our own people are there too. Yoruba are there, but it is just a clamor of the people. The politicians are not there to save us because they are part of the system and they still see it, everything as normal, until when some of them will come out and say, ibi tá a wà ní a lè máa sọ̀rọ̀ ní gbogbo a lè fi gbogbo ẹni sọ̀rọ̀ níbẹ̀ yẹn a lè fi gbogbo ẹni sọ̀rọ̀, but things will have been destroyed probably beyond redemption. So, but there's leadership crisis. We are not all that united. We are unable to present a common front, and that is the problem. All these associations you mentioned, yes, they are existing, they are there, and if you meet any one of them, the leadership there will tell you we are the leaders. Any other leaders you see are just they are just pretenders. You go to another one, the same answer will be given to you. Whereas these are groups that are supposed to work together and come together and now say this is exactly what we want. Yes, the masses are making a lot of noise about this, but they cannot go anywhere. They cannot go anywhere, but it is here that we have the problem, the leadership problem. Who is going to lead us? Who is going to talk on our behalf? So everybody just does whatever he likes, and in that wise, we find out that we are unable to go. Whenever we start something, however the noise is, we find out that this small time, everything will go down again because of the leadership crisis. If there's no leadership crisis in Yoruba land, not only that we will have been able to get what we want, we also will have been able to even help the nation to grow faster. more than we are now. And probably most of the problems we are facing, you might not have faced them. But here, the people will tell you, our people will say, ànìkàn ní ìjọmọ ìjò níyà. Kọ́ká ó ṣáájú kí paramọ́lẹ̀ ó tẹ̀lé, òjòlá kó máa wọ́ rúrúbọ lẹ́yìn wọn. Ta ni ó wá dúró kojú òjò lọ́nà oko? Ṣùgbọ́n èèrà ò fẹ́ pòròpòrò dénú. Ọgbọ́n kí wọ́n fi jẹ ni wọ́n ń ṣe. Onílé ọwọ́ ọ̀tún ojú ewu ni ìmọ̀ràn ká nítòsí gbà. Kájáde ni tọ̀ọ̀kan lé ń wí. Ṣàṣàyàn nífẹ̀ẹ́ ni lẹ́yìn bàbá sí nílé. Ojú bá ní lẹ́tà ajá kẹran nífẹ̀ẹ́ ni lẹ́jú ẹni aṣẹ̀yìndẹ́ ní owó ọ̀pọ̀. Ẹbí ẹ̀yìn ìyẹ́fẹ́ kú, ẹbí ẹ̀yìn ìyẹ́fẹ́ àrùn. Wọn ò ní fẹ́ ká sùn wọ̀n bí àwọn ènìyàn fẹ́ ká jẹ má fẹ́ ká yọ ní fúnni lóko òbí ọ̀pẹ̀rù. Àmọ́ bó bá ṣe bí tèmi ní Àlàó Agbédìgbẹ̀yọ̀. Ní ìgbégbé lóní iná gbókùgbé rí àwọn màgbórí rẹ̀ ìyẹ̀rọ̀sùn lóní mọ́sùn lẹ́yìn odi òǹdògbò jẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ikú sóde Ọ̀yọ́. Ibi dáadáa ló ti ń la ó kú sí ìhó gbálà gbó àkìgbọ́tàwó akiri ìgbè tọmọdé kékeré mú odò tí ó bọ̀. Ọmọdé wa káwọ́ lórí ọmọdé ń sunkún ẹwà ní ilé. Ewé lágbíríkó tó àṣekú pa. If we can just come together, I can assure you, we will get what we want. But there's leadership crisis, as you already said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In one of your creative works, Ọmọ Yorùbá Tata, I believe that work is grounded in the Ọmọlúàbí philosophy. You've mentioned it briefly earlier on. This is a term that the Yoruba use for individuals who are morally upright, emotionally intelligent, mentally stable, and ideologically sound. Why are the people finding it difficult to put the culture of Ọmọlúàbí into practice?
Yes. Whatever we stand on, the culture of Ọmọlúàbí is what we have been preaching, and what I personally believe should be preached among the people, among the politicians, and among even those in business. If you say you are a Yoruba person, you must see that, see the Ọmọlúàbí culture in you. The Ọmọlúàbí culture is not selfish, it's not greedy. The Ọmọlúàbí culture is accommodating. The Ọmọlúàbí culture is not stealing, and it is not. It's not a system whereby you go into government and you corner all the resources of the people. No, that is the Ọmọlúàbí culture. The Ọmọlúàbí culture is about you being for all. It's about you being to help others. It's about you being using whatever talent, whatever gift have been given to you by God for the benefit of others, so that the whole world will be a suitable place for all of us to live. So that is the concept of Ọmọlúàbí. Unfortunately, a lot of people, especially during this political era that we are in now, a lot of people will now go and say they are Ọmọlúàbí, they come to your house. What sort of Ọmọlúàbí that you now want, because you want to go for an election, you now bring money, you now start distributing, you now on the day of election, you now bring guns, you now bring cutlasses, you now bring various things that have nothing to do with election or votes. And all what you want to achieve there, you just want to use legalism to be an elected officer. So if you are such elected, how can we? Of course, we cannot expect any attitude, any behavior on Ọmọlúàbí from you, because the foundation already is very, very bad. When I compiled those works, it was to help those who are just coming into governance then, because it was done between 2001 and 2002. So we were saying that, oh, these are people, we should tell them, we should let them know what an Omoluabi is, so that when we are in government, you know that you are representing us and that you are not our masters. Rather, you should be our servant, somebody working for us. You have come to beg us that you want to go and serve. So how come now servant now become the master, and we just can be just treated anyway anyhow? That is the concept of Omoluabi that we preached, but which a lot of people, especially in politics, have gone against. But Omoluabi is still there for all of us in whatever we do, because that is what actually separates a Yoruba person from another person. Because wherever we are, even up to now, despite the situation in country at home here, you still find Yoruba more accommodating than any others. The Yoruba man can fight his own brother because of you, can fight his own sister because of a total stranger. So just to ensure that the stranger is comfortable. Then people are now saying, because that means the people are foolish, because it is your accommodation that has not created a lot of problem. No. It may be some time the Omoluabi ethos will still survive, and will still overpower whatever machinations put forward by others. The ethos of Omoluabi is still there, and we should just encourage everyone, most especially those in public life, to continue to imbibe that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me follow up a little bit on that Omoluabi, the Omoluabi philosophy. I think one of the greatest political leaders that we've had in Yoruba land was Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Chief Akintola, and a number of others, especially Awolowo. And most of contemporary politicians drop his name when they are campaigning. And they all claim, oh, it's about Awo. But really, they are more interested in getting the people to vote for them. Now, you also in 1990 published a book, Obafemi Awolowo Now, okay? And I believe you also published another one, Alao Adedayo, in 1992. What lessons do you think contemporary politicians can learn from the likes of Awolowo and Akintola?
And Mrs. Awolowo Dosumo is on this program, by the way.
The funniest thing is that here in our southwest, any politician that will come out will tell you it's Awolowo actually. So it's another thing if he gets there and behaves like an Awolowo. They're going to tell you Awolowo should have a I had that opportunity of seeing Baba personally myself. I was a journalist during the campaign of 1983, and I was the one who actually transcribed and read the special speech made for that election. So I knew Baba very well, and I will say it is because we do not have his type again that we are running into all these problems we have here today. When we were discussing, I already mentioned that the development that Yoruba language had enjoyed in the past was created by Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And since then, we've not been able to get another one. We've not been able to see people. Yes, a lot of people are working. I'm not saying people are not working. I'm not saying we have scholars who have done wonderfully well. I'm saying that the government backing that you have enhanced and supported the work they've been doing is lacking. And that was what Chief Awolowo used his own politics to do. And if you look at it very well, a lot of us here talking today are product of free education, free this, not only because we went to school free, but because of the service that gesture had imparted in many of us to say we want to serve the people. I've been to Ikeme several times. So I've been to Badon several times. I was in Apapa, so under such in Obafemi Awolowo's house, and to now think that that was a man who governed the Western region from Warri down to Lagos here. So to now see that was the only thing he had, and despite the fact that he was already a successful lawyer, a successful publisher before he went into politics. One would have expected that Awolowo to say Awolowo owned the whole of Lagos, the whole of Lekki, the whole of wherever. Nobody would have said why, because actually he was the one in charge. But he did not do that. He did not do that. He did not take more than what he needed. So, and that is the legacy. That is exactly what we are talking about. Apart from that, the books, the ideologies propounded by Chief Obafemi Awolowo are still there for people who can read and people who want to read. Whenever you take any of his books, you are going to a school on your own, and you are going to see how he did everything, black and white. So that transparency we do not have again. We do not see anybody interested in the development of the masses. So somebody who is not interested in the development will not even talk about language. Will not even talk about your race. But for everyone, I don't believe that. Okay, if Yoruba people, Yoruba land is developed, is going to rob on the nation, and the nation is going to be developed. It's not and that is how it should be. It is not to be that okay, it is only when Nigeria is developed that Yoruba land is going to be developed. There are farmers here. There are people who suppose not even to know government, who are not even interested in government, who should just be allowed to do their businesses, till their farms and get the crops and eat, and that's all they want to live for. So they do not even want to know who is governing, who is all these rules. But their interests must be protected in the Yoruba place, to say that we are Yoruba and we have somebody, we have a governor who has been protecting us, who has been doing this for us, and that is exactly what we are asking from whoever is a politician. People like us, we are not in politics, but we do try to talk to our people who are in politics. That the fact that we are not, the fact that we do not even know where the party or political party, because personally I've not seen any difference in any political party here. I've not seen it. I've got group. If you and say you're at home, your brother and your sisters are there, and that is what. So that is what we mean here by politics. And I think anyone that is interested in politics, especially in Yoruba area of Nigeria, should go and read Awo and should decide within him or her that, oh, I want to be in politics. Politics is not. And if look at the team that Chief Obafemi put together. Yeah, we are talking about Awolowo was not everywhere. He wasn't omnipotent. He was a human being. But he succeeded in bringing up a very, very, very good team. And this team now worked with him as if they were one. And that was what they did. And you could see the traces as if there, many of those who were members of his government, the same thing that happened to him happened to them. We don't see them in money, but those were sound people. They were people who were churning out policies that are of immense benefit to the general public. Not because we are from Ekiti, from Udo, no, they have that interest of Yoruba. We are government of Western region. We want to bring all this to the people of Western region, and that was it. So, if we are able to have such politicians in our midst again, and if God can just in His mercy send us another Awolowo, definitely, I believe definitely, Yoruba land or Yoruba nation will be better for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Talking about the old Western region and the Yoruba land as a whole, I think one thing that has brought all the states together in the last few months, probably 1 year ago, is the issue of insecurity in the land. And insecurity not just in the Southwest, not just in Yoruba land, but the nation as a whole, Nigeria as a whole. And the Southwestern governor who are in the Yoruba-speaking states met and decided to have their own security outfit so that there will be collaboration among all the states. And so they inaugurated the Amatekun. Now I could see that other regions more or less following that that idea. My question is, do you think the formation of that security outfit, Amatekun, has actually reduced the level of insecurity in the Yoruba land?
Bí ajá ò bá tiẹ̀ lè pa ìkokò, bó bá ń gbó, ìkokò á mọ̀ pé ajá tó ń gbó yẹn ó lẹ́nìkan tó wà lẹ́yìn. Yes, the Àmọ̀tẹ́kùn has not been what some of us thought it would be. But we could also see the constraints why it's very difficult for them to perform. And that's one of the points we raised, that everything cannot be handled by the federal government. The federal government should allow the people of the state to take charge of their security. It is just as simple as that. But because we are just too suspicious of one another, the federal government finds it very difficult to say, okay, let's have Amatekun here, let's have Yoruba in the north, let's have Ogbonike in the east or what. So it is the federal government we are still talking about. And that is why people are talking about restructuring. If we restructure, we will be able to take charge of our security, because criminals in every vicinity are known by people. So if there is a criminal anywhere in Yoruba land and have an outfit, definitely it should be able to cop the crime in that area. The problem, however, is when criminals are going about with AK-47 and some of them had daggers from it, unless you insisted that Amatekun will be going about in Dame guns. The Dame gun, what would Dame gun do in this type of situation? So the Amatekun is not being supported. It's not even being supported. It's not liked by the federal government of Nigeria, and based on that, the results that we should have gotten from Amatekun, we are not getting it. So, we still have them, and we still believe that as time goes on, maybe things will change somewhere, and they will be able, the governments will be able to equip them well the way they should be equipped, and give them the training needed to face criminals. This type just like they are just like local vigilante just looking around to, so they've not been able to do anything. So that is why the Amotekun has not performed to what we want them to be. But I'm very, very optimistic that sometime, somewhere, we are still going to get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me leave politics aside and come back to the issue of Yoruba. Professor Akinloye Ojo the other time mentioned the involvement of the youth, especially their lack of interest in the language. And I know there's no way we would discuss with you without going back to the issue of the film production, the influence of films on the Yoruba people, I mean Nigeria as a whole, but especially on our youth in the country. One of your titles, I believe it's Akéde Àgbáyé, is a weekly entertainment magazine that is devoted specifically to Yoruba film stars, the musicians, singers, poets, and others. You, just as you are devoted to Yoruba language, Yoruba culture, we have another Omoluabi who is so devoted to Yoruba culture, language, promoting that through films. And that's Alagba Tunde Kilani, better known as TK. He has devoted a lot of his resources to production of films and actually projecting Yoruba language, and Yoruba culture, Yoruba religion, and the Yoruba people as a whole. But apart from his films, you look at other so-called Yoruba Nollywood films, you have probably just three themes. It's the love themes, just one man befriending a girl, or he has a wife and he's not truthful to his wife, he's keeping girlfriends outside, or you have a family that they don't have the fruit of the womb, the woman doesn't have the fruit of the womb, and then the mother-in-law is there harassing her and then encouraging her son to get married, to find a second wife or something. And of course, you always have themes that will take them more to the Ifa priest all the time. These are the common themes that you have in video films that are being produced in Nigeria. This is my question to you: is your magazine, Akéde Àgbáyé, doing anything to correct that anomaly? Because I see that as an anomaly.
Thank you very much. Of course, that is part of what the magazine should do, and part of what we do to ensure that we correct these type of things. But as I had earlier stated when we started, that our language, our art, and the culture needs help from all of us. You see, these films you talk about, I'm also very lucky to have done some work with Tunde Kelani, and I witnessed the professionalism which he always include including his works. No one is controlling or telling Tunde Kelani to go and do this. He just felt this is what must be done. Unfortunately, we have an industry now, the film industry, where those who are there, the young ones especially, what they are looking for is just money and quick fame. So, and once they get this, irrespective of how they've gotten it, they become Lord unto themselves. They will not be able to control them. They are the producer, they are the story writer, they are the director, and they are everything. If ever you want to work with them or you do not want to work with them. And because many of the youth we have now have not witnessed what really a good film should be. Some of them clap for them, and once we come out trying to correct them, they say you are just ready to pull them down. What is wrong with what they've done? There are so many good sides of Yoruba history, culture, that if harnessed, these stories will come out of them. But the producer, come artist, come director, come all in all, has not even time to do any research or to write any good story. All he or she wants is just to produce a film, and they say, film mélòó ló ti kó parí ní alẹ́, ti má kà báyìí ó ti lé ní ẹgbẹ̀ta, 600, 1,000, ẹlòmíà ní it's more than 2,000. So, but because there's no one code, when you say film, the film censor board that should do this and others that should do this, what are their roles? How are they doing things over there? If you produce a Yoruba film in Lagos, in Ibadan, or Ekiti for examination or something, and you get to Abuja, what the people there are demanding was just what have we brought? This film will not go out if you not settle best. So you are not even going to see the guys there. All you see is that all you see everywhere is corruption, and that's all. And before you make, even the producer will not even go to the place. Just send somebody there with money and everything is settled. And that is why you continue to have the type of film you have here. And it goes down to what we are discussing, that if we have a serious team, a serious organization, now moving in to say this is not good. Before, for instance, when you can still look watch some film, and when they want to write they still write that has been discarded since 1972. They still write it like that. So a lot of things they still do, they do not even bother to know about their culture or anything. Unfortunately, the people they release it to be clapping. They like it, they say they can read it, and that's all. So we should find a way of coming in to control this area. A magazine like Akede Agbaye will not be able to do it alone. He will not be able to do it alone. It requires effort from scholars, from a good team that can say, this is what we want. In Yoruba language, we are very grateful that you are upholding the language, you are spreading the language. But in certain areas, these are things you must do. If you want to do this, please ensure that we see your script, ensure that we have input. All we want to do is just to correct certain things there. And that's all. We do discussion with you. You do not need your money, just to ensure that you have represented the Yoruba very, very well. I think if we step in such a way, we will be able to still have those of them who can produce very, very well. As I earlier mentioned, I've worked with people like Prince Gibe Kusoko, Adebayo Salami, Dr. Aishu Pepe, and a host of others like that. And I knew that when you want good stories, when you see those elders, Baba Eda and Rofano and some others like that, you are going to get good stories from them. But these people who have good stories do not have money to be producer. And producers are not interested in them because they are actually very few producers now. The writer of the story is the producer of his or her story, and that is it. How we should still see Yoruba language in art and everything as a language that needs our help. Where exactly are we helping it? That's what the dimensions are so wide. It everywhere, every corner of our lives. So we have to do something about it. That is what I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had just the last bit of the last comment. I would say comment and then question. It's again on the issue of the youth. When we were preparing for this conversation and we met, one of the questions we wanted to ask you was how has the growth of the social media platforms affected your newspaper and your business as a whole? But we went online to start to just research more, and we found out that you have adjusted to that yourself, and that your titles they're all online, and you now have the e-version of your newspaper. And for those of us who are in the diaspora, that is excellent. That is, so we commend you that you are even gone further
Thank you.
to do that kind of
Thank you.
Having invested in such a venture, we know that you must have faced some challenges as well. Can you please discuss a little bit on the challenges that you faced migrating your newspapers from the hard copies to online?
Thank you very much. Yes, the challenge has remained the same. No patronage. Nobody is going to come to you if despite the fact that we have enough crowd on the platform, we still scout for responsible advertisers who will come to advertise their product. And we actually did that to ensure we carry the youth along. Òòṣà tá a bá ń ṣe tá a bá ń lé ọmọdé díẹ̀ òòṣà náà máa parun. To ensure that our youth are also able to read the language. If they say, okay, no, we cannot buy the newspaper, just want to read on our tablets, we want to read on our phones. Yeah, we are now there so that you can read. But in terms of the gains that are supposed to come from it, the gains have not been coming. We've not seen anything. But because of our own desire to ensure that the language does not die, the language is revived, and that the language is placed at par with any other language of the world. So you cannot say because we are doing online something, Alaroye is a Yoruba something, we do not come online. We are there. So, and we want to remain there. But the challenge is for setting up this sort of thing are so enormous, and there's no much enormity there than just that the fund is not there. You have to struggle, continue to struggle to ensure that you are there. And maybe I should surpass that the hard cover, the hard paper itself still sells, because there's some of our people who, if they will go to online, they still want to read the physical paper. So we still have them, and it is because the online
Professor Falola, I've actually finished.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So this turns out to be the best segment because you finish when is internet.
That is part of the training that we must ensure that we give our youth. The reading culture here.
Okay, let's now go to the audience. And the way I would do this, because of his impact, I will bring all the 3 professors together. Please put all the 3 professors there so that they will answer the question as a solution to this Alaroye's internet issue. If you want to ask questions, do so, raise up your hand, and we will take questions. The panelists will answer your questions. Any of them can answer the question. All of them can answer the question in brief. Professor Gabriela Yola of University of Michigan, please ask your question. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, professors, and thank you very much, our guest on the program today. Thank you so very much. I must confess that the very first time a colleague sent me one of your speeches, it was a YouTube, and then you talked about the history of Nigeria in Yoruba. It was a segment, all of them actually. I was super impressed and very excited. And I confessed to that friend that, look, I have never had the history of Nigeria done in Yoruba like this. It was very great. So I thank you for all the effort you have put into making Yoruba more pronounced, more globalized. Thank you so much. Now, my understanding of the history of Nigeria that you analyzed, thank you, sir, how it started, how, everything. So the question that I was asking myself was that, if this is the history, if this is Nigeria had been over time until now, sir, the question is, would you say that language and culture have also been part of the problem of Nigeria as a nation? If it has been, what are the ways this problem could be addressed? So we understand, we have a history where we're coming from and all of that. Then would you say language and culture have also become part of the problem, or have contributed to the problem in Nigeria? What are the ways this could be addressed? Thank you.
Thank you. Alora, you couldn't hear you. Professor Adedayo, you want to answer the question?
No. Well, I cannot really pick the question very well.
It said it's language and culture part of the problem of Professor Joe or Professor Kim, did you hear the question?
Yes, at my end.
Professor Akim, do please answer it.
Well, I agree, Dr. Yola, that language is part of the problems of Nigeria. Nigeria is such a complex country to deal with. And what you have to know is that, let me give you just one clear example of the difficulty that our leaders face. You have a leader who is the president of a nation of almost 200 million, and that president is not able to communicate with the people in the language in their own language. It's a major problem. I mean, people think with their language, you think through issues with your language. So if you are not able to connect with the government, that is a major problem. And even during campaigns, during the electionary campaigns, most of the time, at least when I watched campaigns of this current government, Buhari, when Buhari was campaigning, he was communicating with the people in Yoruba land in English. Okay, the question is, how many of the people in attendance understand that language, that English? So it's part of the problem, but we have been brought together. The question is, do we sit down and think through on how to survive as a nation? Or do we think that this agitation of restructuring and splitting the country, I mean, even if you take the Yoruba people together and make Yoruba a nation, can the Yoruba people agree, even though we speak the same so-called standard Yoruba? We still have some varieties of cultures, cultural practices, even within the Yoruba nation. So it's a very complex issue. I want to pass it on to Professor Ujo, but in fact, the best person to answer that question is Professor Falola, because he's an historian, so he knows the problem with Nigeria more than any of us. But Professor Ujo, do you have anything to say?
Oh, thank you, sir.
Well, Professor, Mrs. Professor Bolua Clark just joined us. Welcome, ma. Thank you for participating. Let's go to Mo. Who is Mo? Mo. Mo. Please, Mo, ask your question, please.
Start the video.
Mo. Can we move on to the next person? We're waiting for Mo. Mr. Dr. Philippa is Adeniyi, please. Go ahead, sir. Unmute yourself.
He's unmuted.
Then talk. Yes, or it's okay.
Audio.
It's not from our end, it's your end.
Oh, me wait, audio laptop in color and Looney.
Yeah, he's connecting now to audio.
Okay, all right.
Can you talk? You said all right. We had all right.
No, that's all right for Professor Joe.
Okay, while waiting for him, I received a lot of comments. Some people saying, why don't we conduct this in Yoruba? And as this interview was going on, I was also getting messages, WhatsApp. Why are we not using Yoruba? I raised this issue before the interview with Alaroye. So next time, how do we do this kind of program? Using English to talk about Yoruba issues. Any of you can answer the question.
Well,
well, are you talking, Professor?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
No, sir. Actually, if you want to address an international audience, like we are doing now, there is nothing wrong. Personally, that's my own personal view. There's nothing wrong in using English to address Yoruba. But at the same time, part of what Mr. Alao Adedayo, the CEO Alaroye, is trying to fight is that language, Yoruba, will be used for any form of conversation. And to join him in the protest. You know, he said he was protesting. And what was that thing that he was protesting? That Yoruba language can be used for anything. And that has been shown over the time at the University of Ife. Yoruba language is used to write up to the PhD level. And we have all seen what Yoruba language is being used to do at the media, all sorts of things. So Yoruba language can be at par. And truly, sir, if we really want to do it the way it's supposed to be, this interview ought to have been conducted in Yoruba language because we are addressing a Yoruba issue and we are addressing the development of the issue because it is in using the language that the language will grow. This one has been done. Maybe next time you want to do something like this, we will use the language and we can now, like preachers, you know, Anglican priests, you must learn the language, the indigenous language of the location where you are. So as you are using the language, you can now summarize what you have said in the English language. I think in the nearest future, this kind of a thing should, at least 75% should be in Yoruba. Then English languages can just come. That is part of the way to develop the language and to really prove that the language has the same level with other languages of the world. That is my own position, sir.
So there are requests sent to me that they want Professor Ojo to read a poem for them from Afaimo. They want Adejumo to read a poem. They want Musa to recite poem. I do not know whether your computer is there. You can open it and satisfy members of the audience. Alaroye, your internet has set us back. Because you've been part of this program, we streamline to your TV station.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Òjó. Mo fẹ́ ṣí ìwé translation náà kí n lè ká kí n má ka mi ò fẹ́ kà látòrí ni.
Ẹ máa ṣí àwọn mo ráwọn náà tán ṣí nǹkan.
Ó ní kan tí mo fẹ́.
Mo gbọ́ o.
Ó yẹ ká.
Ẹ ṣáà máa ó dà bẹ́ẹ̀ o.
Okay.
Ó yẹ ká fún wa.
Ṣé
ó yẹ ká bẹ́yẹn.
Adejumo ni ó fẹ́ kà báyìí.
Ó yẹ ká.
This poem is taken from Rore, and the title is Asòfin Rúfin. Asòfin Rúfin. Má ṣe lo oògùn mámọ̀ awo ilé olúgbọ́n. Orí tí ó wẹ̀wọ̀n kì í gbọ́ awo òde àrẹ̀sà. Ìtẹ́lọ́rùn ní bàbá ìwà awo ilé Oníkòyí. Ló díá fún Sálíbù ọmọ Àríbù. Níjọ́ tí ó joyè agbófin kalẹ̀. Òun ò rí ipò kàǹkàmú ló dífá sí. Wọ́n ní ipò tí ó fẹ́ dù yìí o. Wọ́n ní ó rú igba owó, kó rú igba aṣọ funfun. Bó bá wá rúbọ náà tán kọ́ kó tún ṣe wé gbéjẹ́ mọ́wọ́. Sálíbù bá pawó lékèé. Ó pọ̀ pẹ̀lẹ̀ lólè. Ó wọ̀run yànyàn bí ẹni tí ò ní kú. Ó kọ tí ọ̀gbọ́n iṣẹ́ bọ. Sálíbù bá pétépèrò. Ó dọ̀rọ̀ ń bí ọgbọ́n. Ó náwó fáṣáájú. Ó nára fẹ́rù ẹ̀yìn. Ipò ń wá tẹ̀ ẹ́ lọ́wọ́. Àmọ́ ìgbà ó bù ṣe gàdà. Ó tún wá bù ṣe gèdè. Àwọ̀ ọgbọ́n Sálíbù dábàlú. Ẹsẹ̀ òkú sí wá hàn sáráyé yòókù. Láriwo bá gbilé gboko. Gbogbo ọ̀tọ̀kùlú bá pẹnu pọ̀. Wọ́n ní Sálíbù ò yẹ nípò mọ́. Sálíbù wá wẹ̀yìn ọ̀ràn. Ló wá ń fomijé kakọ. Ojú wa ń dami bíi tegbére. Ó wá kábàámọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀. Ipò kàǹkà tó jẹ́wù rẹ̀. Tẹkún tomijé ló ìfipò lẹ̀. Ó wá dẹni yẹ̀yẹ́ lójú ọmọdé. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ló dẹni yẹpẹrẹ lójú àgbà. Kí ló fipò lẹ̀ sí? Àwọn àtẹ̀ lọ́wọ́. Ni Sálíbù bá tún rẹ́wọ̀n he. Ó wá fi kàbámọ̀ bọnu. Àbámọ̀ àmọ́ ṣe é. Àṣetán gbogbo ẹ̀dá kan. Àyìn ó dì ló ń yin àwọn awo rẹ̀. Kò pẹ́ o kò jìnnà. Ẹ̀rí bọ́rọ̀ tí Fásọ ti ń ṣe. That's the end of the poem. It's about a political event in this nation.
Rasa, mo fẹ́ ka ewu kékeré kan tí Akéwùmí Ìṣọ̀lá kọ ni pé àkọlé rẹ̀ ní ẹ farabalẹ̀. Ó wà lára àwọn nǹkan tí a pè ní kí ló pè òwe dewì torí àkójọpọ̀ òwe Yorùbá ni wọ́n sọ dewì pé ẹ farabalẹ̀. Ojú tó farabalẹ̀ ní rí mú, ẹ farabalẹ̀. Ìkánjú ò ṣe é di egun, àmì jẹjẹ eléegun. Ẹni tó farabalẹ̀ ní rí mú eégún, ẹ farabalẹ̀. Ẹni farabalẹ̀ á jẹ̀dọ̀gbín. Ẹni tí ò kánjú ló lè ṣọ̀rẹ́ abiyamọ. Àmọ́dún ò jìnnà kẹ́ni má mebùsùn jẹ. Bàgbà bá farabalẹ̀ yóò bà bẹ́rẹ́. Bọ́mọdé bá farabalẹ̀ á múrí kí àgbà. Ìkánjú ò mégbò jìnnà, omi gbígbóná ojoojúmọ́ lẹbọ. A kì í sáré gàgbọ́n, ẹnìkan ò gbọ́dọ̀ fi wùràwùrà dẹ́sẹ̀ ejò. Bómi ò gbóná, ẹ̀bà ò tẹ̀. Àfẹni tí ó wa gàrí ẹ̀ mú, ẹ farabalẹ̀.
Ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ eléwé lẹ́yìn náà o, fúnra yín ẹ̀yin náà máa ń kọ́ tí yín.
Lágbára Ọlọ́run, mo pé bẹ́ẹ̀ fẹ́ gbọ́ lẹ́yìn ìbò, torí a ti dákọ sẹ́yìn ìbò yẹn níṣẹ́ tó jẹ́ iṣẹ́ bẹ̀ pé but kò fi gbàgbára gùn, mo lè ka ìwé ẹ̀ náà tẹ́ bá fẹ́ gbọ́.
Aláròyé ṣe íńtánẹ́ẹ̀tì yín dáa. Wọn ò kúkú gbọ́.
Okay.
Rambinu.
Ẹja máa kéwì lọ sí Aláròyé ń kọ́.
Kí lẹ pé?
Aláròyé íńtánẹ́ẹ̀tì wọn ò dáa.
Ẹni farabalẹ̀ á jẹ̀dọ̀gbín. Ẹni tí ò tọ́ ló bà bẹ́rẹ̀. Bọ́mọdé bá farabalẹ̀.
Alórí kọ́ọ̀dù ọ̀gbìn.
Èmi ò mọ ọjọ́ rí kọ́ọ̀dù.
Ó ń pẹ́ kó tó dọ́dọ̀ wọn ni.
Ẹ̀ka ìwé yín wà yẹn. Màmá pe Núré ní Àrẹ̀mú.
Ok, ẹ jẹ́ nǹkan lẹ́yìn ìbò ń gbà yẹn. Èmi wá sọ pé be patient. It is the patient eye that can see the nose. Be patient. One cannot eat a bony fish in a rush. It is a patient person that sees the nose of the masquerade. Be patient. He who is patient will eat the snail's liver. It is a patient person that can befriend the expectant mother. Another planting season is near. One should not roast all the tubes yet. If an elder is patient, he will thread the needle. If a child is patient, he will learn the elder's praise name. Haste does not heal a wound. It is the daily care with hot water that is crucial. No one hurries up a coconut tree. Nobody can hastily borrow a snake's hole. If the water is not boiling, the cassava meal cannot be made unless the person is drinking the flour with water. Be patient.
Ẹ ṣé.
Era.
So kí ló dé tí mo fẹ́ orí mu eégún? Kí ni tèmi?
Kí lẹ pé?
Kí ni mo fẹ́ rí mu eégún fún?
Wọ́n yẹ mọ̀ pé Yorùbá ní sùúrù ní bàbá ìwà. Pé wọ́n ní àti kiri náà ti kọ́ wa pé sùúrù ní bàbá ìwà. Ìgbà táwọn kékeré àkànmárò pé àsọdùn ni. Ìgbọ́n bí èèyàn ṣe ń dàgbà ni wọ́n á rí i pé òótọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tó nípọn gidi ni. Kódà kò sí téèyàn ṣe láyé tí wọn ò bá fi sùúrù kún, gbogbo ẹ̀ máa ń dojúrú ni. Nígbà tí wọn bá wà léwe kì í tètè yé èèyàn. Ẹni tó fẹ́ rí tó fẹ́ dẹsẹ̀ ejò ó gbọ́dọ̀ ní sùúrù nítorí ẹni tá a fẹ́ torí ẹ̀ yọ tá à ń dẹsà fún òun náà ń ronú bó ṣe fẹ́ yè so ní sùúrù ló lè rí lè pé tan ìrókò. Ìdí táwọn èèyàn fẹ́ fi mọ gbogbo ohun tí wọ́n sọ síbí ni pé àwọn òwe tán kójọ ẹ̀ ó jẹ́ àwọn òwe tó ń ṣàlàyé fún wa nípa ìwúlò kéèyàn yàtọ̀ sí pé èèyàn létò fún ayé ẹ̀ kéèyàn tún wá fi sùúrù kún tó pé àti pẹ̀lẹ́ tí Yorùbá sọ pé sùúrù ní bàbá wa wọ́n mọ̀ túmọ̀ tán sọ gbà iná tún máa ń sọ fún wa tó jẹ́ pé ó máa ń jọ wá lójú wá ní onísùúrù ló lè fún wàrà kìnìún ẹ̀mí ló lè ṣe àwọn pé bóun ló ṣe fẹ́ ṣẹlẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n padà bá wá ka ìtàn tó wà nínú kí la ti ń pè ìwé tá a kà ní ilé alákọ̀ọ́bẹ̀rẹ̀ gbẹ̀lá wá rí i pé ìtàn ń sọ ni pé kò sí téèyàn bá fi wàràwàrà ṣe tó máa ń lójútùú ṣùgbọ́n bí wọ́n bá létò fún ayé ẹ̀ kó tún fi sùúrù kún tọpọlọ bá wà kéèyàn tún fi sùúrù kún ibi ara sùúrù náà ni pé kéèyàn bọ̀wọ̀ fágbà torí Yorùbá sọ pé ọgbọ́n ọlọ́gbọ́n ni ìjà pàgbà níwèrè ara sùúrù náà ni torí pé tẹ́ bá wò ìwà àwọn ẹlòmíì láwùjọ téèyàn bá fẹ́ hùwà béèyàn ṣe ń ronú èèyàn ó rí àgbàlagbà fín so ó ṣe pàtàkì gbogbo tó ń sọ kalẹ̀ yìí wọ́n fi ń yé wa ni bí sùúrù ṣe pàtàkì tó nítorí jẹ́ pé ní pé òwe dewì ni òwe méjìlá ni ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Akínwùmí Ìṣọ̀lá kó jọ tí wọ́n fi ṣe wí mi mọ̀ bóyá mo dáhùn béèrè yín.
ẹ dáhùn Núrẹ́nì Àrẹ̀mú Núrẹ́nì Àrẹ̀mú.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It's a privilege for me to be in the midst of intellectuals. Sir, I'm a student of language and also an indigenous language scholar, particularly in Yoruba language. I don't know if I'll be given a chance to ask the question in Yoruba.
Do whatever you like, sir.
Thank you, sir. Nǹkan tí mo fẹ́ ìbéèrè tí mo fẹ́ béèrè mi ò mẹ́ni tí ó máa dáhùn ní pàtó. Ó náà ní wípé kí ni ìgbésẹ̀ tí àwọn ẹgbẹ́ akọ́mọlédè àwọn ẹgbẹ́ tó ní ṣe pẹ̀lú èdè Yorùbá tí wọ́n ń gbé lórí àwọn tí wọ́n sọ lórí rédíò. Èmi náà ń sọ lórí rédíò, mo ń ka ìròyìn lé Gẹ̀ẹ́sì, mo sì ń kà ní èdè Yorùbá tàbí níbi wa. Tó fi jẹ́ wípé bí a bá rẹ́ni tó ń ka ìròyìn, iṣẹ́ àwọn ìròyìn kókó inú ìwé ìròyìn, àwọn ìròyìn Yorùbá táwọn olóyìnbó ń pè ní conventional news. Lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ìgbà ló jẹ́ pé wọ́n máa ń da èdè Yorùbá rú, pàápàá jùlọ àwọn tí wọ́n ń sọ lórí rédíò. Wọ́n bá ń ṣe ètò Yorùbá, wọ́n á tún àdàsédé òyìnbó tí àwọn olóyìnbó ń pè ní code mixing. Wọn ò jọ ṣàká, wọn ò jọ ṣoko. Mo lérò pé eléyìí náà ó ń ṣe àkóbá púpọ̀ fún èdè Yorùbá torí pé gbogbo ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn ọmọ ìsìn wọn kì í ka ìwé púpọ̀. Wọ́n ń gbọ́ rédíò ju bí wọ́n ti ń kàwé lọ. Tó yẹ pé rédíò sì sún mọ́ wọn ju ìwé ìròyìn lọ. Ohun tí wọ́n bá dẹ̀ ń gbọ́ lórí rédíò ni wọ́n máa ń ṣe àmúlò ẹ̀. Mo rò pé ó yẹ kí a gbé ìgbésẹ̀ torí pé mi èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ni mo fi bẹ̀rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ rédíò tí mo sì fi ń ka ìròyìn. Nígbà tó yá ní tí ò bá lè sọ Yorùbá kó yí àbá díẹ̀ ni mo fi kọ́ tí mo sì bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kọ́ lédè Yorùbá. Mo wá rí pé mo gbádùn èdè Yorùbá yìí ju èdè òyìnbó lọ ní púpọ̀ mo gbádùn ẹ̀. Kí ni ìgbésẹ̀ tá à ń gbé lórí eléyìí láti rí pé àwọn tí wọ́n sọ lórí rédíò wọn ò da èdè irú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ni ò ní ìmọ̀ nípa ètò ìkànsíra ẹni táwọn sí mass communication tàbí kí wọ́n kọ́ nípa Gẹ̀ẹ́sì wọ́n kàn ń ṣe ètò wọn ni. Ìbéèrè àkọ́kọ́ ni. Ìkejì, màá darí ìbéèrè kejì sí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n láti UI. Ó náà ni pé àwọn tí wọ́n ń kọ́ nípa èdè Yorùbá nílé ẹ̀kọ́ fásitì tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ ṣe ìwé àṣekágbá àwọn tá a mọ̀ sí thesis tàbí dissertation wọn èdè òyìnbó náà ni wọ́n tún fà fi ń kọ́. Wọn kì í kọ́ lédè Yorùbá tí wọ́n kà gangan. Èmi lérò pé eléyìí náà tún ń ṣe àkùdé fún dàgbàsókè èdè Yorùbá tiwantiwa. Nítorí pé èmi náà ṣì ń kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ sí báyìí. Ó dùn mí pé ọ̀gá mi ò sí lórí ìkànnì yìí mọ́, wọ́n ti kúrò. I'm a PhD student in communications and indigenous language media in South Africa now, and I'm working on BBC News Yoruba. How BBC News Yoruba can revitalize Yoruba language. So kí ló wá dé? Mo wá sọ fún ọ̀rẹ́ mi kan pé ṣé kí mi lè kọ́ kí ni ìlédè Yorùbá ni? Ó ní ta ló máa bá mi kà á. Ó ní ibo ni wọ́n ti fẹ́ review ẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ gbé lọ fún àwọn external examiners. Wọ́n lè má jẹ́ iye ọmọ Yorùbá ni wọ́n á gbé lọ fún. wọ́n á di pélé náà kú díẹ̀ káàtó nígbà tá a lọ kọ́ nípa èdè Yorùbá ní yunifásitì tí àwa lè kọ ìwé àṣekágbá wa tá a mọ̀ sí thesis tí a lè kọ́ ní èdè Yorùbá. Fẹ́ darí ìbéèrè yìí tí mo béèrè kẹ́yìn sí ìyá wa Déjùmọ̀ ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n kí ló fà á àbọ̀ mi rèé o, ẹ ṣeun fún àǹfààní tẹ́ fún mi.
Ẹ ṣe alàgbà rẹ̀ mú ẹ jẹ́ kí n bẹ̀rẹ̀ dáhùn láti ẹ jẹ́ kí n bẹ̀rẹ̀ dáhùn yẹn láti èyí tẹ́ béèrè gbẹ̀yìn nípa akitiyan tí àwọn ẹgbẹ́ onímọ̀ èdè Yorùbá ń ṣe láti rí i dájú wípé èdè Yorùbá ni wọ́n fi ń kọ gbogbo òwe àpilẹ̀kọ. Ṣé rí ìṣòro àkọ́kọ́ tá a rí, wọ́n ní àti sọ lára ẹ̀ nínú nǹkan tá à ń sọ bíbá pé amúkùn ẹrù ẹ wọ́, wọ́n ní òkè ló ń wò òwò lẹ̀. Àwùjọ gbogbo àwùjọ pátápátá ni ó jẹ́ pé ọwọ́ yẹpẹrẹ òun ni a fi mú èdè Yorùbá láti ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀pẹ̀ tí ìbá ṣe akitiyan àwọn ẹgbẹ́ àgbà ọ̀tán, àwọn ẹni bí ẹni tí wọ́n rí i pé èdè yẹn ò kú. Eléyìí ni ó sì dé ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga gbogbo lóde ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga gbogbo tó fi jẹ́ pé èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì òun ni wọ́n yàn láàyò láti máa kọ iṣẹ́ àpilẹ̀kọ wọn. Ṣùgbọ́n àìsọ̀rọ̀ yánrọ̀ òun ló pa ilé ìpè ṣáájú o. Ẹ jẹ́ ká yan ní gbogbo yunifásítì pátá ní ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ níbí tí wọ́n ti ń ṣe Yorùbá ló jẹ́ pé tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ kọ ẹ̀kọ́ àkọ́kọ́ àkọgboyè ìwé àpilẹ̀kọ fún àkọgboyè àkọ́kọ́ Yorùbá ni wọ́n fi máa ń kọ èyí tá à ń pè ní BA longest. Ní àwọn yunifásítì míì àti BA longest àti ti MA yẹn Yorùbá ni wọ́n á fi kọ́. Àwọn yunifásítì tí wọ́n ń lò dé ìpele kẹta PhD àwọn ní bíi yunifásítì Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, àwọn yunifásítì àgọ́ Ọlábísí Ọ̀nàbànjọ, àgọ́ Ìwòye àti péréte díẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ bíi Ìbàdàn, Ìlọrin láti MA sókè èdè ìbò náà fi ń ṣe. Ẹgbẹ́ onímọ̀ èdè Yorùbá adẹ̀ ti ń ṣe akitiyan láti rí i pé a sọ fún àwọn gíwá ilé ẹ̀kọ́ pé láti ran èdè Yorùbá lọ́wọ́ bí gbogbo àwọn èdè yòókù kán jọ̀wọ́ kán yí òfin yìí padà. Ìyẹn ọ̀kan. A tún ti rí i pé ní àwọn ìgbésẹ̀ tá a rí pé Yorùbá yìí ó di nǹkan tó fi ń kọ ìwé àpilẹ̀kọ ni pé ní àwọn yunifásítì kan gan ní ìsìn a ti ń pète láti rí i pé Yorùbá jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ tí wọ́n á máa kọ́ ní gbogbo yunifásítì bíi general studies bí wọ́n ṣe ń kọ́ French ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ yunifásítì ní ìsìn. Ìgbésẹ̀ yẹn ó ń lọ lọ́wọ́. A ti rí àwọn yunifásítì kan tó ń ṣe é, a sì ti rí àwọn iléèwé olùkọ́ni kan tó ń ṣe é. Torí náà a mọ̀ pé tí a bá ń gbìyànjú báyìí tí ẹnu ò dẹ̀ dúró, ó di dandan níjọ́ kan a bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní máa fi èdè Yorùbá kọ́ ní gbogbo yunifásítì ní àtìgbà lè kọ́ ní káàkiri àgbáyé bí Amẹ́ríkà o, ní Nàìjíríà wa yìí a mọ̀ pé nígbà tẹnu ò bá dúró tí a dẹ̀ ń ṣiṣẹ́ tọ́ á di nǹkan tí ó jẹ́ pé Yorùbá ni wọ́n fi máa kọ Yorùbá. Ìbéèrè kejì tẹ́ ẹ béèrè nípa àwọn oníròyìn, ṣé ẹ rí ìyẹn ìlú tá à ń gbé yìí a máa gbà wọ́n níyànjú ni o, a máa gbà wọ́n nímọ̀ràn ni o, torí pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà ló jẹ́ pé tí a bá ṣe ìpàdé àpérò ọlọ́dọọdún tí àwọn oníròyìn wà ńbẹ̀ tí à ń sọ nǹkan wọ̀nyí pé ẹ máa lo Yorùbá bí Yorùbá ṣe ń lò, wọn kì í gbọ́, ẹ̀yìn etí wọn ló máa ń bọ́ sí. Mo sì lérò yìí pé nǹkan tó fà á tó fi jẹ́ pé gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹgbẹ́ a lè mú wọn lọ́pọ̀pọ̀ ni pé àwa kọ́ là ń sanwó oṣù wọn, ìmọ̀ràn náà la lè fún wọn. Ṣùgbọ́n gbà tá a rí i pé mọ̀ràn tá à ń fún wọn kò wọlé, ọgbọ́n tá a wá ń dáǹsìn mọ̀ràn ní yunifásítì tèmi wà Ìbàdàn báyìí, a ń kọ́ kọ̀ríkúlọ̀mù kan lọ́wọ́ tí ó fi jẹ́ pé àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní ilé iṣẹ́ tó ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìròyìn ni wọ́n wà máa ṣe kọ́ọ̀sì yẹn, linguistics and communication à ń pè níbẹ̀ láti kọ́ àti Yorùbá and communication. A nígbàgbọ́ pé torí pé púpọ̀ nínú wọn ṣe Yorùbá tẹ́lẹ̀ ni wọ́n ṣe ń lo Yorùbá bọ́n ṣe fẹ́, ṣùgbọ́n tí irú ẹ̀kọ́ báyìí bá wà at masters level ní kìí ṣe undergraduate level tí a dẹ̀ pè wọ́n tán wá ṣe ìgbà tán bá ti wá kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ yẹn tí wọ́n sì gbọ́ Yorùbá tí wọ́n mú yàn kérò àtàwọn náà ti ń di ẹni tó ní ìmọ̀ nínú èdè yẹn nígbà tán bá padà sílé iṣẹ́ wọn wọ́n á lè bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní lo Yorùbá bí ó ṣe yẹ ṣùgbọ́n lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí à ń gbà wọ́n níyànjú à ń gbà wọ́n nímọ̀ràn ni torí pé àwa kọ́ là ń sanwó oṣù wọn bóyá àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Akínyẹmí bóyá wọ́n á bá wa dá sí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí.
Ẹ ti sọ tán.
Aláròyé ṣe lè sọ̀rọ̀ àgbọn tẹ́ sọ àgbọ Tọ́lá Òṣùnúgà Aláròyé àgbọn tẹ́ sọ àní olówó ayé Tọ́lá Òṣùnúgà.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni ẹ̀yin bàbá mi ẹ̀yin màmá mi. Èmi ni mo kéré jù lẹ́ni tó lè sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀kọ́ èdè Yorùbá torí gbogbo àwọn tí mò ń wòye àwọn ojú tí a ti gba orí ẹsẹ̀ wọn kọjá ni. Mo dúpẹ́ gidi gan. Mo fẹ́ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ alàgbà Alao Adedayo. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín nítorí pé èmi ṣiṣẹ́ lórí ìwé ìròyìn Yorùbá. Mo ṣe dé ibi ìpele PhD kan tí mo kọ thesis mi lé lórí nìyẹn contemporary Yoruba newspapers. Master's degree mi lórí Aláròyé ni mo focus ẹ lé lórí. Mo dẹ̀ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín nígbà tí mo wá sí ilé iṣẹ́ yín ìyàwó yín. Wọ́n fún mi ní gbogbo àwọn ìwé ìròyìn tí mo nílò láì gba kọ́bọ̀ lọ́wọ́ mi. Ìgbà tí mo ń ṣe PhD náà láì gba kọ́bọ̀ lọ́wọ́ mi gbogbo àwọn nǹkan tí mo nílò fún bí ọdún 12 tí mo gbéṣẹ́ kalẹ̀ lórí. So I want to thank you very much, sir. Mo lè sọ Yorùbá gan-an, but I just want to reach out like they said to our. But my challenge is this, and I did mention this in my thesis. Fún àwa tí à ń kọ́ èdè Yorùbá, mélòó nínú wa ní library wa ló ní Yorùbá newspaper? That's a question I've asked. Mo rántí pé when I was doing my own research since 1999 on a weekly basis, I used to buy all these newspapers. And I used to teach at Agowe there, Olabisi University. I'll take it to our library there. But how many? Is it in UI, Unilag, Ife, wherever? Do we buy these newspapers? Because this is one way we can patronize what they are doing. So I think the HODs, the deans should give a kind of allocation to buying Yoruba newspapers. Then, is there any way àwọn ẹgbẹ́ yìí tí wọ́n lè bá àwọn primary school, secondary school? My father was a furniture maker. He didn't go beyond primary 6. He introduced me to reading Yoruba newspapers, an English newspaper. He will buy them, bring them home. I will read. He could read. But that's where I got my interest from. I never knew I would one day write any thesis, in that area. So kí la lè ṣe fún àwọn school, because tí primary school rà, tí secondary school rà, tó fi sí library ìyẹn kan lọ́sẹ̀, just once in a week, kò tó tó máa fi ra recharge card kan. Is there any way we can penetrate into Ministry of Education to encourage this? Because to me, èmi kàn rí pé nǹkan tí ò dáa ni nílẹ̀ Yorùbá, Amara Punch, Amara Guardian, Amara Vanguard, nílẹ̀ Alaroye, there are about 16 Yoruba newspapers, so some of them are gone moribund. But what can we do to encourage those who are invested heavily in this? That's just my own little contribution. Thank you very much, sir, for your good work. I really appreciate it. Mo wà ní UK, sir, United Kingdom, sir.
Okay. Nílùú ọba tí yín, ọba wa tí wá wà lọ́yọ̀ọ́ o. Ìyábọ̀dé Alága. Fóònù wọn máa ń lọ ń bọ̀, mo ti ṣàkíyèsí. Ìyábọ̀dé Alága kò burú. Fóònù yín ò láyọ̀ lékẹ́ẹ̀dì. Ẹ sọ ìgbà tó kúnú dà sí ni lẹ́nu.
Tí wàá pẹ́ ní ẹlẹ́ni níyè.
Ọgbà.
Pẹ̀lú mi Fọlájìmí, ọmọ mi láti Louisiana.
Bá mi àti ìyá mi o.
Alága, á pè yín padà.
Ẹ ṣeun o, Professor Falola.
Ìbéèrè.
Pẹ̀lú mi Fọlájìmí.
Ẹ ṣeun lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ bàbá mi, ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Tóyìn Falola ní ìlú Austin ní Texas. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín fún àǹfààní tẹ́ fún mi láti sọ̀rọ̀ àti láti jẹ́ kí n lè fi ìbéèrè mi ránṣẹ́ sí ẹni tí a pè gẹ́gẹ́ bí àlejò láti sọ̀rọ̀ lórí ètò lónìí. Ọ̀rọ̀ tí mo fẹ́ sọ, mo fẹ́ dáhùn sí ìkan láàrin àwọn ìbéèrè tó béèrè lẹ́ẹ̀kan yẹn wípé kílé tí wọn ò ṣe ètò yìí ní èdè Yorùbá tó fi jẹ́ pé èdè òyìnbó ni wọ́n ń sọ. And I will address that question using a foreign language, English, and I will use that to actually reinforce my position and response to that important question. I am glad that Professor Akinloye Ojo and Professor Akintunde Akinyemi are not unfamiliar, and Professor Smith are not unfamiliar with the scenario I will cite to respond to that situation. The question of the language of African literature.
Emma, just continue.
Yeah, you must be familiar with your audience before you decide the language of expression. This Toyin Falola's interview, for example, is patronized by people in America, in Europe, in Brazil, in every part of the world. The audience is diverse. So how can you be using Yoruba language to speak to non-Yoruba speakers? You will soon lose your audience. I'm of a very strong opinion and position that the appropriate language to use for this particular interview is English, because the audience is not majorly or primarily Yoruba. The audience is diverse. We have Igbo audience here, Hausa audience, Swahili audience, American, European, Swedish, Japanese, and German audience here. So why use Yoruba language and leave your audience? You have to communicate with people in the language they understand. That's my response to that issue. And I'm glad that Mr. Alao Adedayo is here. I had my secondary school in Abeokuta Grammar School. So, and Abeokuta is probably the city in which Alaroye had its strongest and widest followership. In those days, as a teenager and grammar school student, the Alaroye newspaper was part of our socialization. It was part of our socialization platform, part of one of our socialization platforms. As secondary school students in those days, our jokes, our discussions, our riddles, and many things we do were majorly influenced by Alaroye. We had one of us as a friend and student who used to talk so much, and then we gave him a name. We said, Mr. Alaroye. Many of us did not know his first name. Many of us did not know his name. We only knew him as Alaroye. Many of us today are medical doctors, engineers, university professors. We still call him Alaroye. That shows the influence of the newspaper, of the indigenous newspaper, in the socialization process of both children and teenagers. Moving away from the secondary school now, even in Abeokuta society, Abeokuta community, you see aged people, young people, also children, debating and engaging some of the contents of the Alaroye newspapers in the 1990s, especially in the 1990s. Kí wọ́n sọ pé Abacha ṣe o, wọ́n sọ pé Abacha ti ṣaláìsí, bàtà Abacha ti ṣaláìsí ńsìn, ká máa retí kí Abiola kó di ààrẹ ló kù o. These were some of the contents of Alaroye newspapers, and these were some of the things you will see us as teenagers, as even our parents discussing, engaging, and using to teach younger children, or using to teach children. Having provided that background, I'd like to pose my question to Mr. Alao. Adedayo, and this is my question. What impacts do you consider the Alaoye newspapers to have played in the socialization process, community formation, community orientation, and socio-political consciousness of Yoruba people? Thank you.
Musuru, gbogbo ìgbà tí ẹ̀rọ Alaroye bá ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ewì ni mo fẹ́ kán máa kà. Èmi lè dáhùn ewì. Bí àwọn èèyàn ṣáà sọ pé wọ́n fẹ́ gbé wì, gbogbo ìgbà tí íńtánẹ́ẹ̀tì bá ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ máa kéwì. Irú question fúlájì mi yẹn máa dáhùn.
And I want to thank you very much. You have partially answered the question for me. If you, as a student of Abeokuta Grammar School, and your mails could be discussed in the Alaroye newspaper, and you find some things interested in it, I want to believe that it satisfied your curiosity. It satisfied what you want to know about the happenings around you then. And that is exactly what Alaroye is doing, and what we've been doing, and what we still want to do. We actually focus on the people of the grassroots because we want them to be able to make decisions on their own. And decisions making is based on information at hand. If you do not have enough information, you are not going to be able to make decisions, and decisions you made at times may be faulty because of information. So we believe we have that weapon to actually advise, and in some cases to guide our people that this is what you should do, this is what you should do. And I think this is where Alaroye becomes not so friendly with politicians, because in most cases they believe that Alaroye should talk good about them, say this about them. No, Alaroye is not saying anything bad about them, but Alaroye, we put those people in the grassroots first. So they are the one who actually decide what we do, because in this gathering is not just that we manufacture news. It is whatever happened in the society that we just take to a corner and have it distributed so that you can get it. It is not, we are not the owner of the news. We are actually just distributing, and that is what we are doing. So we cannot just lie. We want the grassroots to know, and I still believe there's no other means by which you can advise, educate the grassroots of all the people than their own language. If Yoruba language is placed in a position where it's supposed to be, I am very sure that with a newspaper like Alaroye and others that will come in such format, you are going to have more people who are well educated about the happenings around them. And that is exactly what we should just do. We have been involved in so many socialization orientation for our people. We have, even at the elite level, we have organized so many conferences for Yoruba unity, for Yoruba education, for whatever we can. We just think that we want Yoruba people to see themselves as a civilized group, and that the language to be used for that civilization should be your own language. It does not matter how many people are speaking it. So we will continue to do that, and I believe what is happening now, that is the economic crisis and whatever you have is everywhere. The only thing we can do is to continue to do what we are doing and have a better means of doing it. Maybe along the line, maybe there will be money. If there's money, there are a lot of things to do to ensure that the newspaper is more standard than what you see now. But all the same, we are still happy that we are in a position to satisfy the people we came because of. because and those are the people of the grassroots. When you get down, like he have just said, when you get down to some people, and the thing is, the first thing they are going to ask you is that Nimbolotika. To so that will show you the trust that the people have. So I once I had a friend who is now late, and who was working actually for the government. And she had a mom. She was actually the spokesperson for the president. And whenever she got home and was still telling the mom about happenings, about the mama would say, "Irolempa." And it was our mommy. What's about Alaro? It is a So it was not how did you now say, and the mama was a teacher actually. So not that she was not an illiterate, but because she probably had tested Alaroye newspaper and have seen that what we do is just to say the truth and to educate our people. We'll continue doing that. I believe there's still more to do.
Philip Adeniyi, are you there now this time around?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. These are my father and grandfathers. I'm happy to be speaking. I'm the only one that is non-language oriented. I'm a neuroscientist. But I love Yoruba because I'm a Yoruba man. I believe in the power of language and names. Thank you very much. There are two things that baffle me that I probably our elders can share. One is our pre-colonial era. We don't have a lot of education about that. We young ones. I grew up when we learn Jabibata, yes, but my children are learning ABC. We don't have more of historic records that we would love if our people in language can dig deep into that and bring it to the surface. That is one. And I was glad to hear that there are group for agriculture and Yoruba engineering. That's a very good one. I love that. Because we are people who are knowledgeable. We know we have mathematics and a lot of things, and we have them in the past. Unfortunately, we don't have access to such an information in writing. And the last thing I will say is one of the problems that I think is facing Yoruba as a language is because we don't seem to separate these three things. One, language. Two, culture. And the third one is religion. Now, when I see Yoruba people discussing probably online, is Yoruba people seems to be going in the line of Jews. You know, when you talk about Jews have their own religions. Therefore, for you to be a typical Jew, you have to be in this religion. Now, people perceive Yoruba to be there. Therefore, when they talk about Ijala, people believe, it is this religion, people want to bring religion. When you want to teach them Yoruba, say, okay, no, Babalawo ni ever want to say Yoruba. We should let people understand the difference between religion and your language and our language and our culture, because our language and our culture, we can't separate ourselves from that. You can practice religion of your choice, but your language and culture is forever yours, and we need to transfer it to the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
M.O. once again. M.O.
I'm here. Hello, everyone. My question was for Mr. Alao Adedayo. And my question was, how did you come up with the name Alaroye? I always thought it just came from your name because your name is Alao, and I just guessed it was Alao Roye, and that's how you came up with the name Alaroye. But yeah, my question is, how did you come up with the name? And yeah, because it's a cool name.
Thank you very much. That's a Alao has nothing to do with Alaroye now. Alaroye, there are two meanings to it. Alaroye is supposed to be an explainer, someone who explains things. Me. He explained it until I understand. So Alaroye, an explainer, one who explains. But it has another connotation whereby people like Professor Fala will say it's talkative. So people talk too much. So, and that is exactly what some people we want to call it. When it's called you Alaroye, they are not calling you an explainer. Rather, they are calling you a talkative. So, but that is the meaning. Ẹni tó ń ṣe àròyé. So it can be ẹni tó ń rojọ́ wẹ́wẹ́. So somebody who talks much, and it can be ẹni tó ń ṣe àròyé, somebody who explains better. That is it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lanre Laoshe. Excuse me if I don't pronounce your name very well, sir.
Ẹ kálẹ́ o, alàgbà mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín gidigidi gan. Nígbà tá a tẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ètò yìí, mo bínú, mo dẹ̀ fi mẹ́sẹ̀jì ránṣẹ́ sí ọ̀gbẹ́ni Alao Adedayo pé ó ṣe nǹkan tó jẹ́ ìbànújẹ́ fún àwa Yorùbá. À ń ṣètò Yorùbá, à ń sọ òyìnbó. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí Ọlọ́run, ẹ wá ń sọ fún àwọn ọmọ wa wípé ká máa lọ kọ́ wọn ní Yorùbá. Àwọn ọmọ yẹn á béèrè pé tó bá jẹ́ pé Yorùbá yẹn ṣe pàtàkì ni, ẹ̀yin bàbá wa ẹ̀ ń sọ. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ ká máa ṣe gáfárà láti máa sọ èdè wa nítorí pé ẹnìkan ò gbọ́. Nígbà tá a wà nílé ìwé àkọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀, tá a bá ń ṣe French class, tíṣà tó máa kọ́ wa ní French kò ní sóyìnbó, French ló máa kọ́ wa. Láti jẹ́ káwọn èèyàn máa kọ́ French, Nàìjíríà ní Nigerian French language school, wọn sọ nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ ju French lọ. Táwọn lárúbáwá bá ń sọ lárúbáwá, òyìnbó á túmọ̀ ẹ̀. Èèyàn mílíọ̀nù 5 péré ló wà ní Finland. Ní United Nations, tí àwọn Finnish bá ń sọ̀rọ̀, Finn náà máa sọ, wọ́n á túmọ̀ ẹ̀ fún wọn. Àwa Yorùbá tá a wà nílé ayé ìyá lè dín ní 80 million. Àwa ń ṣe gáfárà láti sọ èdè wa nítorí pé ẹnìkan ò gbọ́. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹni tí ò bá gbọ́ kó lọ kọ́ èdè yẹn. Nítorí ẹni ẹ fẹ́ sọ kó máa ṣèdè Yorùbá, kó máa ṣèdè Yorùbá, ẹ wá ń sọ pé ẹ jẹ́ ká máa sọ òyìnbó ká bá ní audience. Ṣé 80 million wa ṣé kò jẹ́ audience ni? Nígbà tí coronavirus ṣẹlẹ̀, mínísítà kan bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ̀rọ̀ ní Haúsá, gbogbo àwọn Yorùbá wọ́n ń jà lọ́tùn lósì. Mo ní kí ló máa ń ṣe yín tá máa ń ṣe bíi pé a ò lọ́gbọ́n lórí báyìí. Ìwé òfin Nàìjíríà, Constitution Nàìjíríà, èmi yìí 1999-2003, èmi ni whip Alliance for Democracy National Assembly. Ìwé òfin Nàìjíríà sọ wípé èdè 4 la lè sọ Nàìjíríà. Mínísítà yẹn ń sọ Haúsá, ọmọbìnrin kan dá padà ní Ìgbò, ṣùgbọ́n àwọn èèyàn wa tá a wà nínú Afẹ́nifẹ́re ń ṣe là ń bínú pé mínísítà ń sọ Haúsá. Ṣé Constitution Nàìjíríà ṣé kò gbàyàn láyè láti sọ Yorùbá ni? Ẹ má jẹ́ ká máa ṣe gáfárà láti sọ èdè wa. Tẹ́ ẹ bá wo BBC Yorùbá, wọ́n ní tí àwọn bá ṣe BBC Haúsá, wọ́n ní iye ìṣẹ́jú táwọn èèyàn ń lò ń bẹ̀ kò ń dín ní 20 ìṣẹ́jú. BBC Yorùbá, wọ́n ní àwọn òréyàn tó ń ṣe ju wíní 20 lọ, wọ́n dẹ̀ ná ẹgbẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà 20 láti máa sọ èdè wa. Kí ló ń ṣe wá? Èdè yẹn jẹ́ national language ní Brazil. Àwa ń sọ láàrin ara wa, àwa ní ká máa ṣe gáfárà. Nírọ̀lẹ́ yìí àbúrò mi kan bá mi sọ̀rọ̀, ó ní ọmọ òun fẹ́ ṣe, kẹ́ bá mọ̀ bí èdè yẹn, àìsọ yẹn bó ṣe bà nǹkan jẹ́. Ìgbà tí olóyè Awólọ́wọ̀ tó jẹ́ prime minister wa, tí wọ́n bá wá, tí wọ́n bá ṣètò, wọ́n ní àwọn tẹlifíṣọ̀n, kíní tẹlifíṣọ̀n kan, bọ́ọ̀sì dánfó, wọ́n á wá bá Alábẹ́òkúta, wọ́n á sọ gbogbo ètò yẹn ní Yorùbá. Bàbá mi wọ́n ní redivision lára ògiri, láti àárọ̀ dálẹ̀ redivision yẹn Yorùbá náà ń sọ. Nítorí náà nígbà tí ìjà dé láàrin Awólọ́wọ̀ àti Akíntọ́lá, gbogbo èèyàn ló jà sí nítorí pé wọ́n gbọ́ ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀. Àbúrò mi nísìnyí ìjọba ń sọ̀rọ̀, àwọn èèyàn ò gbọ́, ẹ wá nílùú ń dàrú. Ọmọ mi kan gbè mí lénìí, ó ní ọmọ òun fẹ́ ṣe geology, ó ó lóun ò fẹ́ kó ṣe, mo ní kí ló dé, ó nígbà tóun lọ sórí Google tóun lọ kà, ó ní gbogbo nǹkan tó ń sọ lóyìnbó yẹn ti pọ̀ jù, ó ní kò yé òun. Mo bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ ní Yorùbá nǹkan tí ìmọ̀ geology jẹ́, wúrà, fàdákà, gbogbo nǹkan tó wà ńlẹ̀, báyìí ni geology jẹ́, àwọn tó ń wa epo geology ni, àwọn tó ń ṣe táìlì tẹ́ fi ń ṣe kí ní geology. Ó lóun ò mọ̀ pé nǹkan tó ń sọ nìyẹn, ó lóyìnbó yẹn ti pọ̀jù fóun, ó lóun lọ́mọ òun ò gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe. Mo lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tó dáa ni, à ń sọ àwọn èèyàn wa nù nítorí pé a fẹ́ máa sọ èdè tí ò yé wa, èdè ìlú tí ò yé wa. Ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ̀ mọ̀ wípé a fẹ́ Yorùbá nation, mo ti béèrè, mo lédè wo lẹ máa sọ nation yìí yẹn náà, ẹ máa sọ òyìnbó, ẹ máa sọ nation yìí. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ sà, alàgbà Falọlá, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ tẹ bá fẹ́ ṣe ètò yìí, ẹ wo mo ti bínú lọ torí pé mi àti alàgbà Alao Adedayo a wà nú ẹgbẹ́ kan náà, ibẹ̀ ni mo ti rí tán ti kọ̀rọ̀. Ọdọọdún lèmi máa ń ṣe ètò ayò ọlọ́pọ́n lábẹ́òkúta, bóyá ẹ ti gbọ́ ayò ọlọ́pọ́n tí màá kó gbòyàn wá tán máa ṣe ayò ọlọ́pọ́n ní gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Mo mọ iye tí mo fi ń ṣe, wọ́n ní kí ló dé tí mò ń sanwó nù, mo ló tì, àṣà wa ń lọ, èdè wa ń lọ. Mo ti ń wá bí mo ṣe máa jókòó ti ọ̀gbẹ́ni Alao Adedayo, mo gbóyìnbó, ṣùgbọ́n tí a ò bá sọ di dandan gbọ̀n ká máa sọ nírú nǹkan báyìí, tí a bá ní nítorí pé àwọn international audience wọn ní gbọ́, international audience yẹn bínú pé diversity ilé ayé ó ń parẹ́. The word diversity is ending because everybody is moving towards one language. À ń baṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run jẹ́ ni, Ọlọ́run ló sọ èdè wa sọ́tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ torí pé ó fẹ́ ká wà lọ́tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ni, tá a bá bísòrì tò yẹn à ń ba jẹ́ ni. Àwọn Chinese wọn ń ṣe gáfárà láti ṣèdè wọn. Tírèènì tó bàjẹ́ ní ọ̀nà ní Delta ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó kọjá yìí, wọ́n ní gbogbo òwe tírèènì yẹn wọ́n ní Chinese ní ọkọ́, wọ́n ta tírèènì fún wa, wọ́n sọ lédè wọn, wọ́n wá ní ká máa lọ kọ́. Nígbà tá a wà l'Ábùjá, kí n má gbà yín láàkì kí n fi àpẹẹrẹ hàn yín, ìgbà tá a d'Ábùjá ní 1999, àwọn ọmọ ọ̀rẹ́ wọn òyìnbó náà ń sọ, ká kọ́ wọn Yorùbá wọn ò kọ́ wọn. Nígbà táwọn máa kúrò l'Ábùjá wọn ti ń sa Haúsá, àwọn ọmọ tí ò gbọ́ Yorùbá ti ń sa Haúsá. Àwa ní àwọn Fúlàní yàn wá jẹ, ǹjẹ́ táwọn Fúlàní bá ṣe ètò yìí ṣé òyìnbó náà máa sọ? Tẹ bá rí àwọn ọba wọn tó bá ń sọ̀rọ̀, wọ́n gbóyìnbó, wọ́n á máa sọ Haúsá. Táwọn ọba wa bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ láàrin Abẹ́òkúta, wọ́n á máa sọ òyìnbó sáwọn ìlú. Gọ́vnà wa ó ń sọ òyìnbó sáwọn ìlú. Ẹ rí pé ó dàbẹ́ pé nǹkan kan ń ṣe wá. Ọ̀rọ̀ mi ò jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ.
Ẹ ṣeun, ẹ ṣeun, ẹ ṣeun.
Tẹ bá ń ṣe ìdíje ayò lọ́dún mi, ẹ jẹ́ á gbọ́ ká lè bá yín polówó ẹ̀. Ìyá wa Pamela Smith, ọpọ́n kàn yín o.
Ẹ ṣé o.
Ẹ ṣeun mà.
Bọ́mọ ẹni bá dára ká wí. Honorable Lanre Láòṣe, ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Ẹ sọ ọ̀rọ̀ díẹ̀, ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ púpọ̀ díẹ̀ nínú ibi tèmi náà fẹ́ bá ọ̀rọ̀ lọ. Mo wà nínú ẹgbẹ́ kan, Sátidé la máa ń ṣe Zoom báyìí náà nípa kíkọ́ èdè àti sísọ èdè Yorùbá. Ẹ wá ṣe gáfárà fún mi, ẹ jọ̀ọ́. Torí nǹkan gan-an tá à ń sọ ni pé púpọ̀ nù wa àfirú ẹ̀yin báyìí, Honorable Lanre, inú mi dùn pé mo gbọ́ Yorùbá tó ń kúrò ní ẹnu yín, torí bí ìgbà tí ẹ̀ ń kọ orin, bí ìgbà orin ló jẹ́ sétí mi. Àmọ́ púpọ̀ nù wa wà o, bí wọ́n ṣe kọ́ wa ní Yorùbá láyé ìgbà yẹn, òyìnbó náà fi kọ́ wa. Títọ́ wa òyìnbó ní. Àwa tí Olúwa gbà lẹ̀, tá a dàgbà dé ibi tá a dé yìí, tá à ń ṣe irú iṣẹ́ yìí, Ọlọ́run ló fi jíǹkì wa. Kì í ṣe pé a gbọ́ wọ́n kọ́ wa ní èdè yẹn, a dẹ̀ gbọ́ èdè yẹn dáadáa. Torí wàhálà tó wà nílẹ̀ tí ẹgbẹ́ yìí tá máa ń ṣe wákàtí kan àfi kọ́ àwọn ọmọdé. Wákàtí kejì Yorùbá sísọ, Yorùbá kíkọ fún àwọn àgbà. Àwa kóra wa jọ bí àwa mẹ́wàá sí 12 la máa kẹ́dùn. Tá a lè sọ Yorùbá, gbólóhùn kan tá a lè sọ Yorùbá láì fi èdè òyìnbó kún. Púpọ̀ nínú wa là ń sọ Yorùbá bẹ́ẹ̀. Ó yá, òtò òyìnbó dẹ̀ yá báyìí. We privilege English. We've always privileged English. We were taught the language using English. Ó ti wá di second nature. Ṣé ti gbọ́ bí n ṣe wí báyìí? Second nature. Ó ti wá di second nature. Bàbá tí ìfi òyìnbó kún. Àbíkẹ́ púpọ̀ nùgbà ni àmọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn, àmọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tá máa sáré sọ. So, ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Mbonode lọ báyìí. Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n
wà ń bí.
Àrẹ̀yìndà. No, Àrìnpé. Tó dùn lọ pẹ́rẹ́ báyìí. Púpọ̀ nù wa ni àti ìdébẹ̀. A sì níbẹ̀. Gbogbo bá ṣe fẹ́ràn èdè wa tó. Irú èmi báyìí bí mo ṣe fẹ́ràn Yorùbá tó, mo láti ṣe nǹkan pa ẹ̀ ni mo ṣe ń ṣe tí mò ń ṣe. Kì í ṣe pé mo gbọ́ Yorùbá lọ tààrà. Níbo ni ta ni mo fẹ́ bá sọ nígbà tá à ń dàgbà? Ta ni mo bá fẹ́ ṣẹ̀dẹ̀ rántí pé ńgbà tí irú àwa báyìí ńgbà tá yìí wà ní secondary, wọ́n á fún wa ní wákàtí 30. Wọ́n á lu aago. Ìgbà yẹn láàrin wákàtí 30 yẹn la máa fi sọ Yorùbá. Wọ́n á tún lu aago. Ó tán, ó ti parí nìyẹn. Báwa ṣe kọ́ Yorùbá nìyẹn. Nínú classroom, ìwé gan pàápàá tá à ń lò, a kàn máa ń ka Fágúnwà ni, Ògbójú ọdẹ, a kàn máa kà á ni. Paragraph. Ó tán, wọn ò kọ́ wa ní gírámà, wọn ò kọ́ wa ní nǹkan kan jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ọdún kẹfà, a ṣe WAEC. Yoruba was a subject. Can you imagine? So, ntí mò ń wí yìí, ṣe rántí pé bẹ́ bá wo àwòrán mo kọ́kọ́ ní má ṣe yọnu, mo yọra mi kúrò. Àmọ́ ńgbà mo wá ń gbọ́, inú mi dẹ̀ dùn pé mo gbọ́ ti Honorable Lanre. Pé Yorùbá yìí, so I'm privileged, you're privileging other people to understand. Àmọ́ audience tó máa wà ń bí. So àfi tá bá tún ní apá kejì ìta ń ṣe yìí, tá máa túmọ̀ ẹ̀ lóyìnbó fún gbogbo àwọn tó bá dẹ̀ tún gbóyìnbó. So wàhálà, I mean, there's some problems in this kind of. We're lucky that we're even doing this. So thank you for doing this, TF. It gets us somewhere. So, Honorable, ẹ má bínú o. Ẹ jẹ́ kí bínú yẹn kó subside gbáà. Torí, I'll take this any day than none at all. À ń ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ń tẹ̀síwájú ni. Ẹ jẹ́ ń fi wọ́n bẹ̀.
Ẹ máa wà ní Abẹ́òkúta ní November 20. Alákin ṣe ọdún oyè jíjẹ. Mo wà lára àwọn àlejò wọn. Màá gba fóònù nọ́mbà yín lọ́wọ́ Aláròyé. Ẹ lè jókòó ká sọ̀rọ̀ torí kí ní ayò yín yẹn. Mi fẹ́ ká wá bẹ́ ó ṣe máa gbòòrò sí. mo dẹ̀ láìkí wọ́n tún ń ṣe ìdíje míì wọ́n ń pè ní èdè Ẹ̀gbá sísọ tí ó ti ṣojú. Ẹ ṣé o, Adéṣọlá Adélékè, Adéṣọlá Adélékè, Adéṣọlá Adélékè. Ẹ̀yin dà o, Adéṣọlá Adélékè. Kò burú. Glory ńkọ́ o, Glory. Glory.
Glory náà kan náà wọ́n ni.
Yeah, Glory, oh yes, sọ̀rọ̀. Please, I like Glory for us.
Ẹ má bínú orúkọ tó wà nínú Glory, orúkọ tèmi ni Olóyè Olúfẹ́mi Ṣódùnkẹ́. Àròyìn gbogbo ìlú gbèyí ní ìlú Nàìjíríà. Bó tẹ̀ jẹ́ pé ìlú Canada ni mo ti ń sọ̀rọ̀. Mo ti inú mi ń dùn kí mo ń gbọ́ títí kéde wọ́n ń sọ Yorùbá. Àwọn yìí dẹ̀ ń sọ Yorùbá, èmi kẹ́ ń gbọ́ Yorùbá. Mo dẹ̀ tún gbẹ́gbà torí mo rí àwọn ẹ̀gbọ́n mi láròṣe. Wọ́n wà níbẹ̀.
Ìyẹn dá.
So ní máa ń sọ ìgbàlẹ̀ sẹ́yìn, ara ẹ̀ náà wà. So ohun tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé oníròyìn lèmi náà tí mo lè lọ sí ìwé ìròyìn tó máa ń sọ Yorùbá. Torí kọ́ wà ní I can speak English very well. I study mass communication. I study communication and language arts at the University of Ibadan and also study here media production at Rising University in Canada. Ṣùgbọ́n mo gbọ́ Yorùbá dáadáa. Torí náà, àwọn ọmọ mi, a kì í sọ òyìnbó líle. Anybody sọ òyìnbó fáàní wà èyí Canada níbí báyìí. Ó ṣe pàtàkì. Yorùbá là ń sọ nílé. Mo fẹ́ sọ ní kí n sọ Yorùbá kí n tó padà sẹ́gbà. Ẹ̀gbá yẹn mo fi ń ṣe mo fi rántí ilé wa o. Èyí mo ṣe ń sẹ̀gbá lẹ́sìn.
Yorùbá tẹ̀ ń sọ ẹ̀gán Ẹ̀gbá ló wà lábẹ́ ẹ̀.
Ó ti jọ náà, èyí tẹ́ bá máa ń kó máa ń pè wá sí, why don't you come and see me tomorrow because I'm coming today. Ó yẹ mọ̀ pé language wà níbẹ̀. So ibi tí mo wá ń lọ nìyí sà, èmi mo ṣe akọ̀ròyìn ní ìlú Abẹ́òkúta, Lagos State ní general. Mo dẹ̀ ṣe alága fún àwọn akọ̀ròyìn ti pépà. Nígbà tí mo wà níbẹ̀, mo gbé ìgbésẹ̀ kan tí mo rò pé bóyá tí Aláròyé náà bá ṣe ìgbésẹ̀ yẹn bóyá ó lè yọrí sí rere ní bí mo ṣe ṣe nígbà yẹn. Ilé ìròyìn tèmi ṣiṣẹ́ fún nígbà tí mo rí pé local government ìpele tó kéré jù òun ló súnmọ́ àwọn èèyàn dáadáa. Mo lọ bá àwọn alága kánsùlù yìí lọ́tún lósì tí mo bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ pókè ẹ jọ̀ọ́ kí ìwé wa lè máa tà dáadáa kó lè máa dọ́dọ̀ àwọn aráàlú ẹ yẹ ká jọ ṣe àjọṣepọ̀ débi pé bó jẹ́ lójoojúmọ́ tàbí lọ́sẹ̀ iye ìwé ìròyìn táwọn máa kó wá bá yín rí léyìí. Tó wáyé pé ká fi ṣàpẹẹrẹ wọ́n tà ní 20 náírà torí pé èyí máa bá wa ṣe lásìkò tẹ́ máa gbà a lè sọ pé kẹ́ ẹ máa ṣe kí ni kẹ́ ẹ máa san náírà 15 yàtọ̀ sí ìtàn ta nígboro. Nípa ìdí èyí mo gbé ìgbésẹ̀ yìí débi pé àwọn local government yẹn wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí rí àwọn newspaper yẹn wọ́n dẹ̀ ń sanwó níye yẹn. Mo rò pé tí Aláròyé bá gbé ìgbésẹ̀ yìí láti lọ bá àwọn èèyàn sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn alága àti pẹ̀lú pàpà àti àwọn ọba communities tó lọ bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ káàkiri àdúgbò pé ẹ máa bá wa ra pépà ìfọ̀rí ìtàkà máa ń ṣe ọdún eégún mo fi ṣàpẹẹrẹ ní o mo máa lọ síbẹ̀ mo rántí pé wọ́n ṣe erékéde àbúkí kọjá ní kẹ̀nẹ́gbà kan mo lọ bá àwọn organizer ìpòkè a máa kọ̀ròyìn ìròyìn tá a máa kọ rẹpẹtẹ bíi pages méjì fún yín nítorí náà pépà yìí ẹ bá wa rà mélòó ẹ máa rà ẹ tó bùkù kínní ó bùkù yé báyìí ẹ mọ̀ ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ mo rò pé tí Aláròyé bá gbé ìgbésẹ̀ báyìí tọ́lọ̀ bá àwọn alága sọ̀rọ̀ láti bẹ̀ lọ ìwé ìròyìn ó máa jẹ́ kínní á máa jẹ́ ìtẹ́wọ́gbà ó dẹ̀ máa ṣe kínní ó máa ní orúkọ. Kí n fi àpẹẹrẹ tó gbẹ̀yìn gbogbo alámọ̀ ẹ̀gbọ́n wa pásítọ̀ Túndé Bákàrè nígbà tí wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe ọjọ́ ìbí nígbà yẹn tí mo wà ní Nàìjíríà ó dẹ̀ pé 50 náà fẹ́ ṣe mo wá òkè a fẹ́ ṣe special report lórí wọn primary school tán lọ ní kẹta kọ́bítì Lísàbí grammar school tán lọ mo lọ ṣe ìwádìí nípa ibẹ̀ yẹn tí mo ṣe ìròyìn rẹpẹtẹ. I want to say sincerely copy 5,000 copies ní pépà tó ń rà bí wọn bá ta pépà 5,000 kan lẹ́ẹ̀kan ṣoṣo àmọ́ èyí tó jẹ́ torí náà mo fẹ́ fi ṣe ilé ìṣàpẹrẹ fún bàbá wa Alao Adedayo tẹ bá gbé ìgbésẹ̀ yìí ní council level mo rò pé a tún jẹ́ kí ìwé Aláròyé kó ṣe kí ni kó gbẹ̀rẹ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ yẹn mo pé kí n wí yín o jẹ́ kí n fi
ṣe o ẹ ṣe o.
Ìgbà méjì jẹ́ báwa.
Ìgbà méjì jẹra wọn níyàn.
Àtúntò yìí Adéṣọlá Adélékè. Adéṣọlá Adélékè.
Ẹ káalẹ́ sà. Bàbá ló sọ̀rọ̀ gbà tí.
Bàbá kan ló sọ̀rọ̀.
Bàbá ló sọ̀rọ̀ torí pé ó fẹ́ fi ẹ̀rọ tèmi wọlé kò wọlé ń gbọ́ sí wa nítòsí mo fi wá ló tiẹ̀ mo kí gbọ̀ngbọ́n pé iṣẹ́ ìṣe yìí iṣẹ́ takuntakun ni Ọlọ́run ní pín in lágbára agbára túbọ̀ máa tẹ̀síwájú mo kí Aláròyé ó sì kí gbogbo àwọn ọ̀dọ́ mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta bí wọ́n ṣe ìfọ̀rọ̀wánilẹ́nuwò. Ọjọ́ ti lọ náà ṣùgbọ́n mo fẹ́ dá sí àwọn kankan nípa à ń lo Yorùbá. Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Akínwùmí Ìṣọ̀lá nígbà tí wọn ò jẹ́ kó ka ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ìfinigaga ipò ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wọ́n kọ̀ wọn ò ká ìyẹn ní inaugural lecture wọn láwọn ò ní ṣe ìyẹn ni wọ́n fi lọ ka ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ayẹyẹ ìgboyè ní Àkùngbá Yorùbá ni wọ́n fi kọ́ láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ tí wọ́n sì fi parí ẹ̀ wọ́n wá fi ẹ̀dà ti Gẹ̀ẹ́sì sí abala kejì ìyẹn lọ báyẹn nígbà tó sì ṣe pé wọ́n máa tẹ̀lé wọn káàkiri èmi náà fi ìyẹn ṣe àwòkọ́ṣe wọ́n mọ̀ pé ní yunifásitì Ìbàdàn Gẹ̀ẹ́sì wọ́n fi jẹ́ ká kọ ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ìfinigaga ipò ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n mo kọ Yorùbá mo kọ òyìnbó Yorùbá ni mo fi bẹ̀rẹ̀ tí mo fi kí gbogbo àwọn aláṣẹ inú ọgbà láàrin ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ yẹn Yorùbá òyìnbó bá a ṣe ṣe tó fi délẹ̀ nìyẹn nítorí náà Yorùbá ò gbọ́dọ̀ kú gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Awóbùlú yìí ṣe sọ a gbọ́dọ̀ máa lò ó gbogbo àwọn èèyàn tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tí wọ́n ní nǹkan ṣe ní Germany ó sọ pé àforí àfọrùn tí wọ́n kọ́kọ́ kọ́ èdè German language tí wọ́n tó lè ṣe nǹkan kan ẹ jẹ́ ká kúrò níbẹ̀ yẹn fíìmù inú mi dùn fún tí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Túndé Akínyẹmí sọ pé ó kọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ wọn kì í kọjá tọkọ-tìyàwó àbí olólùfẹ́ ó tó di ilé babaláwo tàbí ilé wòlíì tàbí ilé lèmọ́mù láti lọ ṣe oògùn ṣùgbọ́n nǹkan kan tí mo fẹ́ sọ ni pé ó dàbí àkàrà òṣù tí wọ́n ń tà ń gbà kan tí gbogbo èèyàn máa ya sí tí wọ́n bá ti rí i pé àwàdà tàbí kọ́mẹ́dì bí ẹ̀fẹ̀ ló ń tà ní sáà kan wọ́n mọ̀ ṣe òun ò mọ̀ ṣe wọ́n tún yà síbẹ̀ mi ì mọ̀ bóyá ẹ ṣe àkíyèsí ìyẹn náà. Ẹ̀wẹ̀ púpọ̀ ò lè ṣe ìwádìí bí irú tí Dúró Ládipọ̀ máa ń ṣe Dúró Ládipọ̀ á lọ káàkiri á ṣe ìwádìí lórí eré tó bá fẹ́ ṣe kó tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ rẹ̀. Inú mi dùn pé bàbá Bámijí Òjó wọ́n wà lórí òkúta wà báyìí nítorí ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé nílé akéde orí Àbáṣọ̀run wọ́n pe alàgbà Adébáyọ̀ Fálétí. Wọ́n pe bàbá Bámijí Òjó torí wọ́n ti fẹ̀yìntì ńgbà yẹn. Wọ́n sì tún pe ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Akéwùmí Ìṣọ̀lá, wọ́n sì pe èmi náà. Wọ́n ní ká wá dá àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ilé akéde ká wá dá wọn lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ lórí bí wọ́n ṣe ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ àti bí wọ́n ṣe pe orúkọ. Àlọ́ àṣe. Ṣùgbọ́n ilé-iṣẹ́ rédíò àti tẹlifíṣàn ti pọ̀ lónìí tó jẹ́ aládàáni. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nínú àwọn tí ó sì ń ṣiṣẹ́ ń bẹ̀ nísìn ni wọ́n jẹ́ aládàáwà, independent practitioner ni la pè ní aládàáwà. Fúnra wọn ni àwọn ni wọ́n ní owó wọn, nítorí bá kù wọ́n ni wọ́n máa sọ. Àwọn ilé-iṣẹ́ rédíò aládàáni wọ̀nyí àwọn náà sì fẹ́ pawó, ìyẹn lọ báyẹn. Ẹ jẹ́ ká sọ̀rọ̀ lórí ìlò èdè Yorùbá àti pọ̀ tí wọ́n ń dá. Tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ mọ́wọ́, wọ́n ní àbàtẹ. Wọ́n tún máa sọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ mọ́ ẹni tó kú. Wọ́n dẹ̀ máa ṣe àwẹ̀wà. Ọ̀nà tí wọ́n fi ń sọ ìròyìn kò fi hàn pé wọ́n láàánú. Wọ́n wá máa sọ Yorùbá bálabàla. Ṣé BBC tí ìbá ṣètò Yorùbá ṣé yóò gbà kí wọ́n mú Yorùbá yàtọ̀ sí pé Yorùbá tó bá jẹ mọ́tò ń bẹ̀? Wọ́n ran àwọn akàròyìn àtàwọn tí ń ṣètò lórí rédíò Yorùbá ó ti pọ̀ jù. Ẹ ṣeun o, adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín bàbá. Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n.
Ẹ ṣé o, ẹ dẹ̀ kú oríire ètò Yorùbá Studies Association.
Ẹ ṣe ń gbá adúpẹ́ fún ìrànlọ́wọ́ náà.
Ìyábọ̀dé Alága àti pè yín tẹ́lẹ̀ o. Ìyábọ̀dé Alága.
Ẹ kálẹ́ o, mo kí ẹ̀yin bàbá àti ìyá mi o. Orúkọ mi ni Ìyábọ̀dé Alága. Mo dúpẹ́ fún àǹfààní sọ̀rọ̀ àti
Ẹ ṣé o, ìyá mi Ìyábọ̀dé Alága. Ó dàbí pé Zoom yín ò fẹ́ kó cooperate. Alaroye Adedayo yẹ ká ìwé fáwọn èèyàn.
Ní kí n kọ ewì ilẹ̀ kí n kọ́kọ́ lórí náà ni
tó bá ti
kí n sáyà kankan. Onílé mo kí yín, ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú mo kí yín, ẹ kú kalẹ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń lọ lásìkò yìí kẹ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká fi sùúrù sí ni. Gbogbo ohun tó bá yẹ ní ṣíṣe ló yẹ ká ṣe. Àgàgà nítorí òmìnira ilẹ̀ Yorùbá fún gbogbo ẹni tó bá mọ̀ díẹ̀. Ẹ rí, tá a bá ń wó òmìnira ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ká yá fi sùúrù sí ni. Nítorí ohun tó ń bẹ lẹ́yìn ọ̀fà ó jòjé lọ. Ká tọ́jú ilé wa ná. Bá a bá tọ́jú ilé wa, ká wá mọ ohun tó yẹ ká ṣe. Ìgbà náà la lè gba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tó máa wúlò. Bí a bá fi wàràwàrà jádà lákọ̀, ibi tí bọ́ sí kì í dáa fún gbogbo ẹni tó bá wà nítòsí. Nítorí pé ìwà ń wára, ìwọra àti àìgbọ́ra ẹni yé ó pọ̀ nínú àwọn ọ̀pọ̀ èèyàn tí wọ́n ń pariwo bẹ́ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n ohun tó ṣeé ṣe ni, kì í ṣe ohun tí Yorùbá ò lè ní. Ohun tó yẹ kí Yorùbá ní ìṣọ̀kan. Bá a bá ti ní ìṣọ̀kan, gbogbo ohun tá a bá fẹ́ ní jẹ́ tẹni, gbogbo ibi tá a bá náwó sí ibi ire ló yẹ kó jẹ́ fún wa, ṣùgbọ́n tí ò bá ti sí ṣọ̀kan kò sí bí à ń rè. Mo gbìyànjú o nítorí mi kọ́lẹ̀.
I see. Professor Bayo Malola of Howard University, you'll be the last person to ask a question or make a comment.
Mojuba gbogbo ilé o. Ẹ ṣeun ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wa.
Eléwé àgbà ni wọ́n.
N ò ní kéwì lónìí. Ìbéèrè ètò yìí ó dùn ó lárinrin. Inú ilé mo ti ń gbọ́ tẹ́lẹ̀, mo tún bọ́ sínú ọkọ̀, mo tún padà síbẹ̀. Ìbéèrè mi wà fún àlejò wa pàtàkì tí wọ́n bá wa sọ̀rọ̀ lónìí. Alàgbà Alao Adedayo. Ìbéèrè mi ó pín sí bí ọ̀nà méjì, yóò dẹ̀ forí sọ ìtàn olóyè Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, kọ́lọ́run kó délẹ̀ fún wọn. Ní bí ọdún mẹ́ta bọ́dún mẹ́rin sẹ́yìn kọ́ nìyẹn, bí ọdún mẹ́ta sẹ́yìn 2019, mo wà ní inú ilé ìtura tó wà ní inú ọgbà yunifásitì Ìbàdàn. Ìgbà yẹn mo láǹfààní láti bá yín pàdé. Ẹ̀yin lẹ gbé mi lọ́kọ̀ yín bí mo ti ń wá ọ̀nà. Ẹ fẹ́ fi ìwé kan lọ́lẹ̀, ìwé ìtàn tí ẹ túmọ̀ My Early Life tí bàbá Awólọ́wọ̀ kọ, ẹ túmọ̀ rẹ̀ sí èdè Yorùbá. Ó wú mi lórí, mo wà níbi ètò tẹ́ ẹ ṣe, mo sì á mú ẹyọ kan tèmi náà, ìwé yẹn wà ní ọwọ́ mi. Ìbéèrè mi nìyí, pẹ̀lú gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nípa wípé àwọn èèyàn ò mọ nǹkan tó kọjá lọ sẹ́yìn mọ́, tí wọn ò mọ ìtàn mọ́, tó jẹ́ wípé ìtaari ní ọ̀pọ̀ ìtàn èèyàn rí ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ń ṣe lóde òní, pàápàá jùlọ àwọn tí wọ́n jẹ́ èwe. Ǹjẹ́ ẹ ń ṣakitiyan láti tún yí àwọn ìwé yòókù tí bàbá ṣe sí èdè Yorùbá? Ọ̀kan nìyẹn. Tẹ́ bá ń ṣakitiyan yẹn, ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ ibi tó dé. Ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì nìyí, bẹ́ẹ̀ èdè Yorùbá ìpèníjà wà. Gbogbo ẹ̀ ní gbogbo àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wa ti sọ nípa rẹ̀ lónìí, wípé bóyá àwọn kan wọn ò máa lo èdè bó ti yẹ kí wọ́n máa lò ó, àti wọ́n fi èdè òyìnbó wọ́n fi ń lo èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Ǹjẹ́ ẹ ń ṣakitiyan àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n àrìnpé, ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Adélékè, ǹjẹ́ ẹ ń ṣakitiyan kí irú àwọn ìwé báwọn yìí kí wọ́n máa kà ní àwọn ilé ìwé ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá? Kí ni ìrírí yín láàrin yẹn? Ẹ ṣeun.
Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Nígbà tí a ṣe ìwé bàbá wa Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, kókó ohun tó jẹ́ ká ṣe nígbà náà ni pé kí àwọn ọmọ wa lè kà á. Nítorí ẹ̀ la ṣe tún kà sínú fọ́nrán fún wọn, pé tí wọ́n bá kà á tàbí tí wọ́n bá gbọ́, wọ́n á rí ìtàn bàbá yẹn fúnra wọn. Wọ́n á mọ ohun tí ojú wọn rí, wọ́n á mọ irú àforítì tí bàbá ní, wọ́n á mọ irú ìyà tó jẹ wọ́n kí wọ́n tó dé ibi tí wọ́n dé. A nígbàgbọ́ wípé ìtàn tó yẹ kó ṣe àǹfààní fún gbogbo ọmọdé ni. Tí wọ́n bá mọ̀, ẹ̀kọ́ ńlá ló máa jẹ́. Yàtọ̀ sáwọn ọmọdé nìkan, a nígbàgbọ́ pé àwọn olóṣèlú wa pàápàá, tí wọ́n bá ka ìtàn ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ìgbésí ayé Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, nǹkan tó lè ṣe àtọ̀nà fún wọn níbi yòówù tí wọ́n bá ń lọ ni. Ṣùgbọ́n gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìbéèrè tí ẹ béèrè, ìgbìyànjú tiwa ńlá ṣe yìí láti gbéwèé náà jáde. Àwa la ṣàtúpalẹ̀, àwa la tẹ̀ ẹ́, tá a ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀. A nígbàgbọ́ pé irú ohun tó yẹ kí ìjọba tẹ́wọ́ gbà ní, pé nǹkan báyìí tí a bá jọ sọ̀rọ̀ èló ni owó tí ó máa gbé ẹyọ kan jáde a fẹ́ ha fún ọmọléèwé wa nítorí tí kò bá jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ àfi tí ìjọba fúnra ẹ̀ bá mú un pé ó dáa káwọn ọmọ yìí lọ kà á ni wọ́n máa lọ rà á láti kà á fúnra wọn ṣùgbọ́n irú nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn ò pọ̀ jù rárá nínú nǹkan tíjọba lè ṣe fún àwọn akẹ́kọ̀ọ́ àti kọ̀wé sáwọn ìjọba kan lórí ẹ̀ pé kán wò ó ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ mú ni àbí ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ rà á fún àwọn ọmọ wọn tẹ́ bá kọ irúwé bẹ́ẹ̀ jáde tó bá kì í ṣe olóṣèlú èsì á máa pẹ́ kó tó jáde gan ṣùgbọ́n a nírètí pé ó ṣeé ṣe níjọ́ kan kárí nípa ìkejì ẹsẹ̀ kan láti bọ́ omi tí ò ní fẹ́ hàn iṣẹ́ tí èèyàn bá ṣe ìwọ̀nba tí ẹ rí ń jọ yẹn iṣẹ́ tá a fi mílíọ̀nù rẹpẹtẹ ṣe ni owó tá a dẹ̀ rí ń bẹ̀ ò ká owó tá a fi ṣe kódà bí ò bá jẹ́ pé ẹnìkan tínú wọn dùn tí wọ́n pé ẹ gba mílíọ̀nù mẹ́ta ohun tá a fi bí mílíọ̀nù méje ṣe bá a bá ṣe jókòó tá a bá máa ṣèdárò nìyẹn nítorí bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n bá a lè pé ládàánù torí ẹni tá a ṣe fún kì í ṣe nǹkan àdánù ṣùgbọ́n nínú tọ̀rọ̀ pé bóyá èrè téèyàn jẹ nígbà tí ò sérè ń bẹ̀ àfi ká tún jókòó ká tún ṣarajọ ká tún rówó míì ká pé bá tiẹ̀ torí iṣu jẹpo ká torí epo jẹṣu pé n tá à ń ṣe nítorí bàbá wa láti fi orúkọ wọn tó ti rinlẹ̀ láti tún ọ̀ máa mú rinlẹ̀ sí àkọ́kọ́ ni àti pé pẹ̀lú ìrètí pé lọ́jọ́ kan àwọn ọmọ wa míì náà wọ́n á dìde wọ́n á ní àwọn àkà wọ́n bá kà kọ́kọ́ tán wọ́n á kà kejì á lè jẹ́ wípé nǹkan tí wọ́n máa lò láti fi ṣe àtẹ̀gùn ìgbé ayé rere ibi tá a wà nìyẹn.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Ọmọlọ́lá ẹ̀yin lẹ́bàá ń dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo àwọn àlejò wa àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n tó bí wọ́n ní ìbéèrè àwọn tó gbọ́ wọn àtàwọn tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́ bá ti wá dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn tán àwa àparí ètò náà ẹ ṣé.
ní orúkọ àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wa tó jẹ́ pé àwọn ni wọ́n gbé ètò yìí kalẹ̀ olóyè Tóyìn Fálọlá a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ àlejò wa pàtàkì ọlọ́lá Alao Adedayo àwọn tí wọ́n bá wa àwọn tí wọ́n jẹ́ bí olùbéèrè àwọn bí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wa Akíntúndé Akínyẹmí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wa Àrìnpé Adéjùmọ̀ àti ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n wa Òjó Akínlóye Òjó